Hello, everyone. Welcome to the LARP Tales podcast, the greatest LARP podcast in the world, where we go over our adventures in the world of live action roleplay. I am your host, Oliver. I am here as always. I am joined as always by my wife, Robyn. Hey, Robyn.
Hello.
I'm a little bit out of practice. It's been a little while after the Empire season. We got a spooky one for you. We're a little bit late to the Halloween party, but hopefully this might be able to you might be able to like cling on to the Halloween season with this spooky episode. We went to a horror LARP. It's our first horror LARP that we've ever been to, actually. So we went to a game called Eldritch Isle, which is a basically a Call of Cthulhu LARP. I'm gonna play some like trigger warnings and things like that because it's horror and we deal with some certain subjects. Before we get into that though, let's do our housekeeping. If you are joining us on YouTube, make sure that you like this video. Please subscribe to the channel if you are new to the Two Having to Roll universe, so you knew when new content is coming your way. If you're on an audio platform, any audio platform, give us stars. There's probably some sort of stars system on the audio platform that you're on. Give us the stars. It's awesome. If you want to support us in any way, we have a Patreon. We have referral links to Empire LARP as well. That's all down in the description or in the show notes of the audios. And with that all out of the way, let's get into our recap of Eldritch Isle. Okay, so our recap of the first ever horror LARP we've been to. I just want to flag up first. You've had trigger warnings, but I want to flag up that this podcast is all about just telling stories of our experience in LARP. They are kind of reviews of the games we go to, but like they're not like we haven't been asked to go to any of these games. Like we haven't been given a ticket to go to these games. If that ever does come up and people have paid us with the intention of getting us to review them, we will obviously let you know. So we are paying customers at this game, and this is just our story. Just so we're clear, this game was written by a friend of ours called Max. We actually interviewed Max as well. We're going to be releasing that episode after this one, so you have some context. This was Max's first LARP that he's run. You'll learn anyway if you go watch that episode. He works in gaming and things like that, so he knows how to kind of write games, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so we'll go over what the Dark Waltz was. I've already mentioned it's basically Call of Cthulhu. So if you have played like the Call of Cthulhu TTRPGs, you probably already got the vibe of what this LARP is. It's cosmic horror. You did well to convince me, Roman, didn't you, to do a horror LARP, because I'm not. It's not that I'm not a big fan of horror, but you are, aren't you?
No, I absolutely love horror and like all different types of it. I love, the sort of supernatural types of horrors. I love zombie horrors. I love like monster horrors. Like literally anything. And ever since we started LARPing, and there's been a few of the question and like answer streams where people have been like, "Oh, what LARP would you really like to go to?" And every single time I've said a horror LARP. That's what I want to experience. But Oliver's not quite as into horror as I am.
Well,
And
yeah. I mean, I like horror themes in like my fantasy.
Mhm.
I like the aesthetic of horror. I'm just not like into just slasher stories and things like that. I'm not quite into the more kind of human terrestrial stuff. I'm not really into. But like if it's going to be anything, it's going to be Eldritch kind of cosmic horror. I enjoy pulp fantasy also, so like that pulpy kind of horror as well, where everything's a little bit weird is kind of up my street. as well. Also
Yeah.
I've enjoyed playing horrors in tabletop RPGs as well. So I was like, I enjoyed playing them there, so I'm probably going to enjoy playing them at LARP. But it kind of dawned on me as we were going to the event, because we had lots of LARPs running up to this LARP, and like the week before I was like, oh, I need to like nail down like how I'm going to play this character, what's his accent going to be, what's this, that, the other, and I completely went out my head that this was in fact a horror LARP and he's probably going to die. And I'm like, oh no.
But like that's the thing. Like what was really good is Max actually put together a list of films that we could watch before going to help get us into the sort of setting. So they had two lists. One list that was showing the time period, and one list that was exploring the horror themes. And the types of films that was saying to watch for horror was things like The Thing, Cabin in the Woods, things like that, that sort of vibe. So as soon as I read that, I was like, oh yeah, this is the kind of thing I want to go into. I wasn't as confident with the time period. That's what I actually had to like look up and research a bit more, because it was set during the Great Depression. So that's the late 20s, early 30s, that sort of time zone.
The premise that was given to us before the game was that it is, like you said, set in the like it was like 1929 or something like that.
Yeah.
And we are all drawn to this island, and it was like off the coast of Canada. So like to make characters, you have a wide scope of like different character kind of archetypes and identities that you choose from, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. So we all filled out our character. They were character creation forms, but almost more like character request forms in a sense, because the way that we filled them out, we selected, first of all, which class we were more drawn towards. And there was quite a few classes that we could play. So we had our socialites, which are, slightly more wealthy party goers. Think of your like flapper girls and things like that. They would be classed as your socialites. We had our researchers, which were there for researching, but for looking for things like artifacts, which we will go into quite a bit. We had our medics as well, which could be more like surgical or like psychiatrists as well.
Mm.
And we also had our underdogs. The underdog one was quite a vast one. There was a lot of different things that could fit into being an underdog.
Yeah, like my character could have been an underdog. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
totally
it
could
could have
have.
been. Yeah.
Yeah. And then finally we've got our security, which is pretty self-explanatory, playing things like personal bodyguards or security for a larger area
Yeah,
and so
or
on.
actual like servicemen and
Yeah,
like policemen and things like that. So
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. So we selected like what our top choice was, and then what our second and third choice would be on our creation forms.
yeah. So obviously all the classes had like mechanics and things like that
Yeah.
that differentiated them, which we'll kind of get into. But yeah, it was going to be it wasn't just we created a character. It's a little bit different from what we did at the Game of Thrones one, which
Mm.
was different from what we're used to at things like Empire, where you just make the entire character, the entire backstory. Um, so this time we came up with like we put forward our class that we wanted to play, like you said, and then came up with like a concept and a name basically.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the form, which was kind of terrifying at the time. But this thing, this is way before we started heading there. That's why it kind of blindsided me a bit. That I'm like, oh my god, I'm coming to a horror game. So when we actually filled the form out, there was like lots of. Obviously, it's a horror game. That the idea is it's live action role play, so there's going to be jump scares and that you're going to be put in tense situations and things like that. So there was lots of safety stuff in the form. But one of the things was you know do you have any fears that you would like to explore in the game, which was such a weird like thing to answer. Not like obviously it was like wait do I actually for type 2 fun. you know
That's the thing, because we had to write down what our characters' fears would be. And in addition to that, we could put in our own fears. And then also, like you just said, answer the question of, do we want to explore those fears as well? Which again is pretty terrifying, because it's almost like, it was a difficult one to sit and think about. Like, I took a while sitting and thinking, be like, what am I scared of? And what am I actually prepared to explore within those fears? So I put down that I've got this fear of really deep water, like that sort of thought of going into the ocean and going all the way to the bottom where it's complete blackness and you just keep going down deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. That's one of my like absolute, like, no, I absolutely hate that. And I thought, I'll put that down. And yeah, I want to explore it. Don't know how they're going to do this, but I want to explore that.
Yeah. So I mean, should we talk about the characters that we made then? Like, so
Yeah.
yeah, I was struggling between like two concepts. So I ended up going for I actually watched like Django Unchained like a few weeks before I came up with the character concept. And so I was like, oh, actually in this time period I could be like a southern American southern gentleman, like gentry, but who's not really a gentleman type thing. I'm like, that's quite cool because that's probably going to be a bit more removed from everybody else there. I think a lot of people, because usually in that setting, people go for the New York gangster, the kind of British nobility and things like that. And I thought, oh, that's good because that would kind of mean that I wasn't really part of the war, so that would separate me from people because I didn't go to war and whatnot. And I wanted to be my other character concept was going to be like security, but I'm very glad I ended up going for a socialite now.
Yeah. No, yeah, I actually did have two concepts for this. I wanted to be from Russia no matter what, and I really wanted to do the Russian accent for the full weekend. I thought that'd be quite fun to play with. But my first idea, which wouldn't really work being from Russia as well, is I wanted to be like a coder, like an expert coder that had been employed during the war efforts to work on that sort of side of it. I thought that would be like a really cool concept. But because of the area that I chose to be from, it wouldn't have made a huge amount of sense, like to be involved in that sense. I remember like saying to Max, oh, I'd quite like to be, like a mathematician or a coder or something. That'd be quite cool. But honestly, I'm happy with whatever. And this is when I was asking him, can I be from Russia? And he was like, yeah, you can. And I'm quite excited about your character when we create it. And I was like, okay, cool, you go for it. And every so often he messaged me being like, are you okay keeping secrets from Oliver? I was like, assuming you're talking about the game.
Amazing.
I was like, yeah, go for it. I'm not going to spoil anything.
Yeah. So they then like took those concepts and then they then wrote us proper backstories and then obviously reasons why we were going to this island, right? So I guess we can. Do you want to reveal? There's not really anything in my backstory that kind of would be spoiled in the telling of the story, really. So I was playing Colt Calhoun, who was a southern gentleman, right? And he was his father basically had a collection, obviously ill-gotten. They were artifacts from like Native American artifacts that he collected, and Colt wanted to basically continue that collection but expand it and make it like the best private collection in the world. So and Colt had a very kind of keenness for uh specifically artifacts that were really old and had anything tied to do with any type of religion. So and if it was both, then it was just like, yeah, we've got to have it. So my reason for being on the island was very, very simple. And then Yolanda, I had met Yolanda, which is Robyn's character, in Siberia, and obviously because I was there trying to find like stuff from the locals as well, and you'd help me with that, and then I was your like escort to the island for the event.
Yeah. Um, I played Duchess Yolanda, who was part of a very wealthy Russian family. And her family home or her mansion had been burnt down with her entire family killed in front of
Yeah,
her.
because there was
And
a
she,
certain revolution that's in that time. Ugh.
yeah.
Uh,
And Yolanda escaped. Now, she believed that nobody knew she had survived this. Spoiler for later, someone knows she survived. So she escaped and she gathered up as many like rings and jewelry and things like that she could on her way out to help pay people to, get her to safety. And then she, like you said, met Cole in Siberia and offered to be his translator if he would then accompany her. And we were, of course, drawn to this island, but we were also both received invitations as well, physical invitations to this island, to which was sent by the current owner of the island, which was the
yes. Yeah,
Vanderbilts.
the Vanderbilt. So the story is that it was Saint Pierre, so it was like an island off an archipelago, was owned by the Vanderbilt family that have been basically were known to be wealthy,
Yeah.
but they were reclusive until very recently. Um, so yeah, I think basically every character had a different reason for going, and yeah, we all had basically invitations to go to this island, and obviously be hosted by the Vanderbilts. Should we go over some of the should we go over some of the mechanics of the game first? Because otherwise it
Yeah,
might get a little
yeah,
bit
no,
confusing.
definitely. There was one more thing on the
Mm,
character sheet as well, and I totally forgot about this. We also each had goals, like personal goals that were
yeah.
given to us. And the personal goals were quite good, like role play prompts as well. Although I completely forgot about one of my goals for the entire weekend.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there was a lot. There
I
was
had
a
enough prompts, it was fine.
Yeah, there was a lot. I don't know if I would say there was too much, but I think there was a lot that you could choose from. I think it felt more like choice
Yeah,
than oh god, there's too many mechanics, there's too much going on here. I think there was just a good choice of things like if you were lost for something, because we'll talk about Lex. There was a couple of things I kind of dropped because of just like my mental energy during the game. I just couldn't keep up
same.
with it.
Yeah,
Yeah, so actually, like, so we'll talk about sanity because I've literally got it written down on a list here, make sure I don't forget anything. We'll talk about the sanity system,
yeah,
which I'm pretty. I've played this in other like horror RPGs before this type of thing. So we had like a sanity tier system where when you lost a level of sanity, then it just gets worse and worse. What Max and his team did with this one is they had us have literal marbles, right? So we had so many marbles, and the amount of marbles you had depended on the class you picked. So as socialites, we didn't have that many marbles. Robyn's showing the camera marbles now. Yeah, we had actual
these are
marbles.
marbles.
Yeah, and there wasn't really a like, oh yeah, if this specific thing happens, you lose this many marbles. The idea was if something you think if something happens that you think would have freaked you out to have lost X many marbles, just lose them, right? So just move your marbles from one pocket to another. Or in most cases, I just went, well, that was fucked up. I'm gonna say that I lost all my marbles there. So when you
Yeah.
lose them all, you go to your first tier of insanity, and then you get your marbles back. And if you lose them again, you go to the second tier and the third tier. And there's the third tier is your last tier. And then I think we all had individual sanity tiers, which we didn't get until the day actually. So mine was to do with like narcotics and like alcohol and things like that. So the more insane I got, the more desperate I was to get in character drugs, basically. And I mean, I had I was drinking some real alcohol as well, but like it was there was people obviously peddling in character drugs and things like that, all sorts of stuff. What was yours again?
So my one was that I became more and more frightened, essentially. So it started off where I would start being quite jumpy and on edge at everything, and then it went to I would start to, like, scream out or run and get people to protect me, desperately want someone to protect me. And my final one was I was just so scared that I was just screaming uncontrollably every single time something frightening happened. And a game where you're trying to be quiet, to hide from things, that was the challenge. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And then
I actually thought, I might be wrong. I thought the marbles was like you had so many, and after you lost like so many, you were out tier 2, and then so many more, it was no, tier 1, then tier 2, and then once you lost them all, I didn't think you'd get them back between then.
yeah,
Oh.
unless I'm mistaken, I could be wrong. I mean,
Oh, you're
I can
probably
check.
right. I just
Yeah,
lost them all so
no,
quickly.
the
I'm like,
way
that's me. I'm insane for the
no
rest of the weekend.
no the way I saw it, you were just like, oh yeah, so if you saw something that sort of freaked you out, you take one, but then that wouldn't put you to a tier of insanity. That would just be like, oh, well,
Oh,
that's a bit
yeah,
weird.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then,
No, I think you're right.
but then
Yeah, yeah.
obviously, if it's because some people lost their marbles like and got to tier 1 on Friday night, Um,
Mm.
so it's sorry, I'm just reading this off the list, make sure I'm not missing any important ones. The get off me system. So we didn't have hit points. We had get off me tokens. So when an NPC kind of got hold of you, you could say get off me in whatever way you want to do that. And the NPC would obviously just back off you. And we were using the firearms as well, so we'll talk about them when we talk about the firearms. But uh, again, depending on what class you were, dictated how many get off me tokens. So as socialites, we had 3, and then the get
Yep.
off me tokens only worked. They didn't work on all the enemy types. We were told there was going to be 3 enemy types, like humans, not so humans, and monsters. And the get off me tokens wouldn't work on monsters. So if you got grabbed and you didn't have any get off me tokens, you would just either you just got killed or you had to go willingly with with the monsters if they dragged you away,
Yeah.
basically. And then I guess we'll talk about the shots. So yeah, there's a setting with firearms. We decided to actually hire out some blank firing revolvers, which
Yeah.
was real fun. That they're not cheap to like hire, even they're very expensive to buy. But I thought, you know what, sort of, it's a new experience. I've never used them before. Because you could use like cap guns, and I think people were using prop guns as well, and just saying like bang as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. Because what we end up doing is, again, I messaged Max before it, being like, hey, I have no idea what I'm doing here. I never used like any of the guns. And he put me in touch with the person that was coming to the event with all the guns. So we got to hire them. We met this guy and he went through all the gun safety. He showed us how to load the guns, how to unload them, and let us fire off a couple of shots, and gave us, so we got the gun, the box of ammo, and the holster as well. And after we got them, we pretty much went out to the woods, didn't we, and just have a few like
so I'm
practice
just
shots.
remembering because I remember you being a little bit freaked when you heard the first blank fire. Because
I was
I
freaked.
don't think I think you thought they were just gonna be like little similar to the caps going. I'm like, no, these are blank bullets, So
I
they were loud.
I had my loop ear things with me, and they were in a lot at this event. It was like my first thing. As soon as an enemy was coming, I was like, okay, in they go.
It's funny because at the start of the event, I thought, this isn't a Wild West or a war like setting LARP or style of LARP. It's supposed to we're going to only be shooting things of like, oh no, but there was quite a lot of there's quite a lot of shooting though.
That's a
So
lot of shooting.
yeah, no, using those were really fun. But yeah, they were heavy and they were quite big as well. And you managed to like I was fun because I had a belt, but you had to like make like come up on the spot with some way to carry your massive revolver as someone wearing a
Okay.
dress.
I had a plan. I had like a thigh holster, and I was like, oh, "This is gonna be so nice." And I have my gun down there. Yeah, no, I was way too heavy to have there. So I actually brought with us a huge big bag filled with fur hats and fur scarves. And these were actually all my nana's from this exact time period. It was the early 30s that she got them all. So I was like, oh, perfect. Um, and the scarves were the fur was backed onto leather, so it was quite strong. I literally tied it around my waist, and then I put the gun onto it. That was perfect. I also didn't have a bag properly sorted out for like all my like marbles and stuff to be in. So I got one of the fur hats, cut a few holes in it, and like wove a leather thonging through it and created a strap. So I had like it looked really good. Like the effect was really good, especially when I took because I could actually put the gun inside the bag as well. And it was quite cool to sit in there with all this like fur and just taking out the gun from it. Like
Yeah.
it was quite fancy.
Yeah, no, you did well. Annoyingly, like, cause I remember I forgot a belt, and then I had to buy a belt on the way down, and then it snapped, and then I had to borrow one. But yeah, having those firearms were good. And then our characters actually had a limited amount of shots, so we had little shot tokens. Once again, it depended on what class you were. So I think only the security had unlimited. So basically, they could just use as much ammo as they wanted. What was interesting about this was that we had very few ammo as socialites, but because we were using like blank revolvers, by the time I'm actually loading, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to just go over my limit in one encounter, because I can't physically get like reload. I'm going to get 5 shots off, if that, and the type of character I'm playing, I don't think that's going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the best mechanic of this game, which was genius, was the I compel you.
Oh,
So
I love this so much.
yeah, so it works as a horror game, and it's a weird one because in RPGs, TTRPG people will know this as well, especially like in the kind of modern era of playing. Anything that takes away player agency is a bit meh, because you're just like, oh, I don't really want to be like hypnotized by Strahd, and then I just can't do anything as a player. I'm just like, oh, I'm hypnotized, okay. Um, but in this game, and they made it very clear, like, obviously we can't tell you what to do, but for the sake of the game, if an NPC says, I compel you, just do what they say, you know? And they did it to great effect, didn't they? It was
Oh,
so
they
cool.
really
Yeah.
did. Like, I mean, you said it there. Only NPCs can use this call. It wasn't something that the players can do. And it was simply a case of, I compel you, followed by an instruction. For example, I compel you to go to that hut over there. I compel you to follow us into the woods, these sort of things. That was always leading you to
Yeah.
some cool thing that you were going to get to interact with. But they did say, if for whatever reason, out of character, if you can't do it, if you're like, no, don't want to, it's just a case of, no, it's fine. Or if out of character, you're like, I really want to do it, but I was just heading to grab something to eat or to go to the toilet or something, just tell the NPC and it'll be fine. You come back and do it, sort of thing, which I liked.
Yeah, yeah, and it wasn't immersion breaking either, because you would just be walking down the street, or you'd be talking to someone, and then someone would just come and whisper in your ear and be like, "I compel you to go to that shack over there," and you would just like walk to the shack to have an encounter. But from a game running point of view, what a great way of getting players where you need them, because the players are never where you never where you want them to be. So I thought that was a really good way of doing it. Obviously, every class had their own little abilities. We both were socialites. I'm not going to go through all of the other characters' things, but we had one sort of mechanic called "Would You Kindly," which wasn't I compel you, but it was basically for flavor of being a socialite. You could just say, "Hey, would you kindly?" And players and NPCs were just encouraged to basically just do as you asked. But it wasn't like,
Yeah.
would you kindly, it was like, would you kindly pass that book here type thing. It wasn't like, would you kindly jump off a bridge type thing. That wasn't where.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Another thing that was quite good in this game is they actually did adopt egregores into each group as well. So the socialites had, a socialite egregores, and researchers had researcher egregores. You see where this is going. So we all had our egregores, and the egregores literally did have a physical list of all the people they were looking after. And I remember this at the start thinking, wow, why did they need like a physical list? I've never like noticed that it was such a small group of people. Towards the end of the night, it was very clear as to why they needed a list and needed to know where people were, which was pretty awesome, having like our egregores checking in with us. it was also a really good way to make sure every single player was, you know, getting involved in some sort of way. They were having things to do. And again, that leads back to the I compel you. It was such a good way um to bring people into certain parts of the game, especially people that maybe are like, oh, I've been on the outside of a lot of this so far. It's a way to bring them into like, hey, just want to come and do something cool. Come on, let's go do something cool, you know? And I really
Yeah.
loved that.
Yeah. I guess yeah, so the Friday night, obviously, we the like most games they run at that site, they tend to do Friday, Saturday, Sunday. This game was Friday, Saturday because they wanted to obviously end it like in the early hours of Saturday, so it would end in the dark, not like
Yeah.
in the daytime. But Fridays, as usual, at the events at Eversley is supposed to be a little bit more of a social. There's not going to be anything crazy going on because obviously it was already kind of getting dark anyway when by the time we started. Instantly they had it in what they call their like Wild West town. So people who've never been to Eversley, they've got like these these wooden buildings and things like that, and it was really um I was immersed straight away. I'm always surprised that the
Yeah.
more I go to like the same LARP uh site to do different LARPs, I'm always like just surprised how immersed I am, even when I just see the same buildings all the time. So
Exactly. No, I don't I feel the same. I mean, um another thing this time, just like something that we did that we don't normally do, we actually stayed in the huts this time. This was our first time staying in the actual huts that they've got built there. That was really great getting to do that. It does tend to be a bit of a first come first serve sort of situation, but we were able to group in with a friend and actually have a hut, have like a proper bed and everything, which did make things a little bit nicer and a little bit easier on us as well, being
we
able to
were
like,
so lucky with the weather because that
oh,
yeah
oh
yeah
yeah,
because I think the weekends like around it were just like torrential rain, and we were like, ugh, it's gonna be gross if it's if it's rainy or cloudy, but it was just like it was a mild temperature the whole time, and at night the skies were clear, which made it even more spooky. And then on the Saturday night, I think it wasn't clear. I think it was a little bit cloudy and hazy, which was even more atmospheric. So we did well with them. Our
exactly. And
yeah.
like
Mm.
the like onto to the weather situation. I mean, our kit for this game was very different from everything else that we have had in the past.
It was great. It
Oh
was
my god,
amazing.
it's
How it was
gorgeous.
it was great to finally have kit that I can get for cheap, because like I usually play fantasy games and getting stuff for a mask presenting character is always super expensive. Oh, you want a Gambison? Oh, that's going to cost you 120 quid. No, for this game, I'm like, no, I'm going to be like a southern gentleman from Tennessee in in a suit basically. So I'm like, easy. I think the most expensive thing I had on me, I had my cowboy hat because
Yeah.
that's a genuine hat that I bought in the States. That cost me a
And your
little bit.
boots.
It wasn't massively expensive. And I already had cowboy boots, so I'm not going to count them in my kit costs. But I think the most expensive thing I bought was like my shirt, my literal shirt, because I bought like a
Oh
tuxedo
yeah.
shirt. Um, but yeah, I went to like because yeah, you can go to charity shops or thrift stores, as Americans call them, right? That you can go there, and honestly, in this country, I mean, you're not really going to get anything for a mask presenting character in a thrift store for a medieval game or a fantasy game. But for this character, I think I got like my jacket and my trousers for like they were like a fiver together. So it was great.
Yeah, we're really lucky with that actually, because I got my dress off of Vinted and I got like a Flapper Girl style dress, but it was like a cream one and like lightly beaded. It was gorgeous. And then we hit the jackpot where we got like this coat that Oliver spotted in one of the charity shops,
Well, it
and
wasn't a
it
charity shop.
was oh
It was a vintage shop. So the
oh yeah, it
guy,
was a bit of
yeah,
shop,
it was a
yeah.
vintage shop. So the guy literally goes abroad, picks pieces up to bring back to his vintage shop. And literally, like we were getting stuff for me, and I think I got a couple of bits and pieces, and I was like, "Look at this!" And it was just like this like gold and white like fur coat that I'm just like, for Yolanda would be perfect. And you tried on this fit beautifully, and it was not expensive at all.
I know it was like the perfect fit,
Yeah.
the perfect style.
No.
I looked up the label and the information on it. It is from the early 30s.
Oh, it was
So like,
it was so cool because
oh,
it was such a because I was like, that is the most, because I said to you, because you were like, oh, do I, because you were a bit like, oh, I don't want to spend money. I'm like, that is the most unique thing. You're like, is going like that's going to make you look like you are from cold Russia, and you're going to stand out in this setting 100%. And this funny, the guy that we bought it from was just like, I don't think I was going to sell this. He's like, I picked it up. I was like, I'm never going to sell this ever, you know. And then we were like, hey, we're doing a LARP. So everyone looked
yeah.
good. Another aspect of my character was that I had a mustache, and I hate having facial hair. So it's just
Okay, just to put in like how much he hated this, he brought his shaving stuff to the event because he was like, the second I die, because I know I'm gonna die, the second I die, I'm shaving this straight off. Like in the hut, it's coming off.
yeah. I just get so itchy, you know. I'm just like, oh, I liked it for the cat. I like the look for the character. I like the mustache for the character, but for me having it, I was like, no, just not for me. But yeah, I also had obviously the southern accent. How did you find doing? Because this is the first time in a LARP I've done a strong accent. I know you had a strong accent as well.
I loved it actually. I was nervous at first because I was like, what if I'm not very good at this? And there's always that thing when you're trying to do a different accent, it's that sort of line of, am I doing this accent justice, or is this turning into something quite offensive in the way that I'm using it? And I spent so long trying to, figure out the right cadence, the right way of doing things, and the right responses and everything as well. To the point where I actually did download Duolingo finally and tried to learn Russian just so I could get a few sentences out. Yeah, I didn't stick with that. So
It,
wasn't
yeah,
able to do it.
yeah,
But it helped me get into the feel of it a little bit more, just a bit, especially into like sentence structure at least.
yeah. I mean, it was easy-ish for me because once you're in the character and you're immersed as well, and it helps that everyone else is really good role players at Eversley. You know, there's some real like people that know how to act and everything there. You know, so if you go for it, and obviously. LARP is what LARP, honestly, especially a small LARP like that. It's so much easier to not feel like you're not feel stupid because
Yeah.
everybody's just like instantly invested. So no one's gonna pull you up on not having a great accent that you're trying to do. They'll get the idea. They're gonna play with you. Um, I think there was only like one other character that was playing from the South United States. That I could tell there was a lot of like just there was a lot of American accents. There was a lot of like New York accents,
Oh yeah.
classic, you know, and obviously a lot of British accents as well. So, and I think there was a couple who wasn't there that were two of you that were Russian.
Two of us, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. No, yeah, yeah. And that like that helped a lot as well with them, like some of the role play.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, so cool, and everyone looked absolutely fantastic. So the Friday evening was a party, a welcoming party. We got welcomed by our host, who was an NPC. So we had Vanderbilt, Mr. Vanderbilt there.
He
That I
was so good.
it was
I
so good.
just loved
I was
him.
surprised. I was surprised by the brief that you must have been given because
Oh,
like I was expecting someone like really like creepy and mysterious, and he came out and he was like, "Hello, everyone. Hey, everything's fine." And that was him the entire time. Like he just acted like a little bit of a clueless idiot, basically. the
I
entire time.
just loved him so much. Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't know what's going on. He's fine.
Ultimately, but we'll get there. We'll get there. So yeah, we had, there was they set dressed the whole thing really well as well, didn't they? Set
Oh,
dressed all
right.
the
So
buildings.
the set dressing was absolutely beautiful and it was perfect. They set dressed the outside, they set dressed all the insides of the buildings, and they also installed a full sound and speaker system so they could play music and also a radio show that they had recorded as well. Like the attention to detail here was beautiful. You were instantly immersed in this world. They also had a lot of people. We have photographers, obviously, at LARP, but we also had a lot of in-character photographers using these sort of photo boxes and things like that going around. And we've actually got photos from like the photo boxes and from the photographers as well. And it was just beautiful. What was quite funny actually is it took me a minute. The music they were playing on the Friday night, I was sitting there and I kind of thought, wait a minute, I know this. And they were all done in a 30s fashion.
Oh, they're modern
If you
songs,
can
they're right.
picture that. But it was Spice Girls. Literally, Spice Girls
Yeah,
was playing in this fashion. It took
that's
me a
pretty
moment.
cool.
I was like,
Yeah.
this is brilliant. I love this.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty cool though, to do that. Yeah, that was a good that was a good little addition to it. The radio. We'll come back to the radio a bit later as well because they did something later with it, which was like creepy. But um, yeah, the Friday night was definitely the night to be a socialite. That was the only. I think that was the only night I was using Would You Kindly a lot because they had people with like they had obviously servers with like canapes for us and things like
Yeah.
that. So they had card table that we were playing. There was blackjack going on, so it was a real good time to like like really do your socializing as a social. Obviously, everyone was doing it, but really like go meet all the characters, talk to everyone. You know, learn why everyone was there. My character was only really interested in talking to the researchers and the other socialites. I didn't. I made it clear that I thought a lot of the security were riffraff, which
Oh
kind
yeah.
of which kind of came back to bite me later. Um, and yeah, we had performances for like some of the players were playing performers as well. So yeah, we had a few people get up and sing and things like that. It really did a real good job of like just immersing you in that time
Yeah.
period.
No, that was wonderful. Yeah, as well, just kind of like chatted to a few people. Didn't go up to anything like super crazy on the Friday night because yeah, like we're socialites, we're there for the party. And made one sort of ally on this night, who was a researcher from Edinburgh. And this is my first ally that I made.
Yeah. Mark was playing a researcher who was basically just like Sean Connery from Raiders not Raiders of the Lost Ark from the Last Crusade. So
Yeah.
it was
Oh,
yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah, we made it was funny that we made a few kind of like um we were talking to a few NPCs for a little while as well. I remember I was talking to one person who was playing a detective as well. Like he had a proper like
mm,
Poirot. Like some of the tashes. Like mine was just like a mustache, right? But like well, I had a goatee as well. But like some of the mustaches were just like amazing. There was a couple of people, including the detective I was talking to, that had this beautiful like you know I don't even know what they're called. You know, like swirling mustache. Yeah, it's incredible. You know, and there was a lot because there was a big fire in New York at this time period, right? So a lot of the people were talking about that, how this fire had happened in New York, what it was mysterious, why it happened, you know, what it was all about. So yeah, and I kind of knew there was a couple of shots fired and fights, right? And I knew in character there's probably something weird going on, but sorry, out of character, I knew something weird
yeah.
was probably happening, but in character, I'm just like, oh yeah, well, and I kept saying to people, I was like, well, this is what happens when you bring you know, you don't bring professional security with you if you just bring riffraff onto the island. This is what's going to happen, and you let them drink our alcohol. You know.
I remember like doing a lot of that, like having other socialites coming over and be like, so we have security, but apparently they're drinking and gambling. Like, who hired these security guards here? Because this is not appropriate. You
Yeah,
know, they should not be here with us. You know, and there was a lot of that.
yeah,
um
yeah,
there was a few people that mentioned things on that night. So there was a few people who were coming out and screaming and talking about like nightmares they had just had and things like that. But most of it was just put down to, oh, clearly can't handle, you know, decent alcohol. That's what's happening
yeah.
here.
So Mark said there was a few encounters as well on the Friday. Mark was telling us
Mm,
about an encounter that he had. So there's like kind of like tunnels in at Eversley from because it's an airsoft site, and they use them as a an encounter for like trenches. So like they literally, I think they took like Mark's character, who I think was a war vet. And they were like doing a lot of like the stuff with like the gas mask and the other. I just heard about this all secondhand. So a few people did this encounter where they were put into the trenches, and there were people with like NPCs with gas masks on, and they had to like crawl through the trenches and things like that, which it just sounds terrifying,
Yeah, it's pretty terrifying.
Yeah, but we had a great night.
Oh yeah, we just gambled,
Stayed
and
more and
again,
drank,
like
yeah.
onto that, because we were socialites, we had lots and lots of monies.
Oh, that's the thing we did have the most of. I did, yeah. That's the thing. We had the least of everything but money, um,
Yeah,
which was good, because the following morning, so on the
all bloodstained.
it's all blood. I love that. I love that it's all bloodstained. That's amazing. Yeah, this is the thing as well, because you had. I didn't actually realize how much money I had till I later found out how much money everyone else had. I was like, yeah,
Oh yeah,
we had. I was like, okay, money. I didn't really have anything to like put that against. And I'm like, oh wait, I have a lot of money. Cool. Because again, it's like a one shot, game that we're probably not getting out of. So it's just like I was like, yeah, I just want to, they probably wanted us to spend it and do something with it, which
exactly.
was good, because like the first thing that happened in the morning, we will talk about the nightmares as well, but like the first thing that happened in the morning is that someone came around selling artifacts. So
Exactly.
but yeah, you have was because I don't think I had a nightmare.
No, I
I
had,
think you had
yeah.
one, right?
So I had a little piece of paper that said, "Do not open me until Saturday morning." So got up in the morning, I did my typical thing where I got up, got ready, we walked in, I was like, oh wait, and ran back to get that piece of paper. And then was like, yeah, it was essentially a nightmare of it. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but it described what I'd already gone through. So described in more detail like the family and the fire and stuff like that. And it was almost like a bit of a, remember this thing happened to you. So that's how I kind of saw it. I was like, yeah, that's quite a good way of just being like, hey, this bit here is going to be important today. So just as a reminder, this happened.
Mm.
Um, at this point, Yolanda's still pretty closed off to people. She's not going to come up back and be like, oh yeah, like all this stuff happened. And even with Colt, she was just a bit like, freaked out, like, oh, I didn't sleep well, I had this nightmare, and kind of brushed it off in a sense until people started asking leading questions about it.
Yeah,
And she slowly revealed little bits, but not too much.
yeah.
um
It's funny because
but
that's thing. My character wasn't really haunted by any past. You see, so like
mm,
he's like lived a cushy life. So I think there was only probably a couple of us that didn't have nightmares. But yeah, I wasn't lying at all when because a lot of people say, "How do you sleep?" And I was like, "Yep, slept like a baby," And I was like, "That was true." Like my character slept well, easy.
so yeah, as we came into this, we knew there was going to be a performance, so we knew that at like, so I think time in was roughly like 10, and we
10,
knew
11 ish,
that
yeah,
like,
something like that, yeah.
yeah, we knew about half an hour after time in we were all going to head to watch a performance by our people who were there as performers, so we knew that was going to happen. And we were all going to head out to the woods, and we had people like taking benches and chairs that way. And in the meantime, there was a lot of these artifacts going around, and we actually found ourselves speaking to a gentleman who was
It
selling
was the
these
devil. It was the
artifacts. We
devil.
spoke to the devil.
Yeah.
How about we talk about yours first?
Well, yeah, the NPC comes in and he's got a top hat and a cane and things like that, and he says, "Oh yeah, I've got it." Then he had this other NPC like servant who was just cowering to him as well, like this, and they had this tray full of artifacts, and obviously I'm just like everyone is really interested, but I make like a beeline for it. I'm like, well, this is literally why my character's here. So
Yeah.
and yeah, I heard people, I think someone bought like a musket or something, like, and I was like, I don't want a musket. I was like, they were like, right, okay, hang on, because I think they barely got into the camp and everyone was trying sort of like taking things off. So I think they were like, oh, let's take this into like the cabin and make sure everyone gets a good look at them. And this is where I realized how much money I had, because I was like, I was like, well, what's your old, what's the oldest artifact you have? And they had these like obviously props, and they had ribbons on them, so out of character you knew there was something going on with them, obviously. But like in character, I was like, okay, what's your oldest one? They had like several things that were like a lot of like fish iconography, let's say. They looked like they were made kind of like brassy stuff and things like that. And I was like, what's the oldest one? And he's like, oh, uh, this is probably the oldest one. And I was asking about, did it cut? Was it possibly, there was speculation on what could have been from the natives of the island, and I think he seemed to be just humoring me. Um, and I was like, all right, well, it was like, how much do you want for it? And then someone started like a bidding war with me. And I was just like, I didn't realize how much money I had until I was like, started bidding. And I was like, yeah, this much. And then the person next to me who wasn't a socialite was like, oh yeah, they like, oh, $50. And I was like, $75. And I could see him go, oh, and I was like, yes. Yeah, and he was like, $80. And I was like, $150. It's like, oh, and I was like, $200. I just went $200. I was like, ah. And I bought it, and I got my little artifact.
I'm just remembering something about your artifact. I know we're going to go into a bit more detail
Mm.
about it, but your artifact was the one that was the NPC that was cowering. It was in their front pocket, and it was the one artifact that they went to walk away, and the devil was like, you forgot that one. Oh, I forgot this one. And it was almost like a little clue of what was about to come from that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, I want to buy an artifact. That'd be quite cool. And I saw this one, and so these artifacts, they were all to my understanding, they were all like designed for the game, to my understanding, because they're all like 3D printed, and they were just beautiful. And I saw one, and I was like, I want that one there. And I was like, oh, it's gonna be our bidding war. And I didn't actually have all my money on me, and I was like, oh, maybe this, that. And then he looked at me and was like, how about you owe me a favor? And I was like, okay, sure. I owe you a favor. So I literally made a deal with the devil here. And I said, yeah, I owe you a favor. And he gave me the artifact.
Yeah. That was pretty cool. I can't remember. You'll tell me, because I've literally forgotten now what your artifact did. Um.
I don't think I ever told you because I gave it away really quickly.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Um, my artifact essentially made me start to see tentacles everywhere. And the longer that I held it, the more that I started to feel that I was getting engulfed by tentacles, and they were like everywhere in the woods and stuff. And everyone would slowly turn into them. But I really quickly gave it to someone else who was interested, because Yolanda kind of had it for a little bit, went, nah. I like passed it on really quickly, and it
Yeah.
went to someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. So mine was. I read it because they, like I said, they had like ribbons on them, and it gave you roleplay. I love roleplay prompts, by the way, in RPGs. Especially when you just kind of loosening up as well into characters. Um, and yeah, so the effect on mine was the longer you. This isn't like this is just from my memory. I can't even remember the exact wording, but the basics of it was you're going to start becoming forgetful of things. The longer you hold it, the more forgetful you're going to get, right? Or the longer it's on you, the more forgetful that you're going to get, right? So I actually put it in my pocket quite quickly. um and then I was like, right, okay, I'm going to then go over to the researchers, right? So that I then start talking to the researchers about artifacts that they had found. And I'm like, I want to get more artifacts for my collection. And I spoke to like Jay's character. So like Jay's character and Mark's character were both researchers. And yeah, they were trying to get my artifact off me. They were like, oh, I think these are dangerous, because even at that early in the day, they were like, oh, we found out that these artifacts are affecting people. And I'm just like, nah, like, well, what do you mean affecting people? And they're like, oh yeah. I'm like, mate, well, it's probably something they're probably made from some kind of metal. It's fine. I'll put it in my pocket. It'll be fine. They're like, oh yeah, I wouldn't touch them. And they're like, maybe there's something in the soil or something that's affecting people, because apparently last night people touched artifacts and something happened. And I was like,
Mm.
that's fine. And they were really trying to get it off me. And I'm like, they were like, how much? We'll buy it off you. And I'm like, you couldn't afford it. Like this. I know they literally couldn't afford it. But it was hilarious to watch them like squirm, and they were showing me all their things, and I'm like, how am I gonna get these? Where was I? Oh yeah, I had a fun conversation. It was later on, but I'll say it while I was remembering it, like because Jay's character works for like the British Museum, and he was like, "What want these artifacts?" And I was just like, I told him about my private collection. And then later on, because he seemed like a stand-up like character, Jay's character, then he like came to me later, just between me and him, and he was just like, "So there are times where artifacts that we get fall off the boat on the way to the back to the British Museum, and they're not catalogued like that." And I'm like, yeah, yeah.
It's a good little connection
Yeah,
there.
exactly. Yeah, that was quite fun. But yeah, and we headed. I put my artifact in my pocket, and we headed down to go see performances. Right?
Yeah, so we headed down to see the performances, and we all got down into the woods where we were some of the last people to get down there. But the socialite, so people moved to allow us to sit down. And there was all these benches and chairs that had been dragged out, and there was a microphone and everything there. And we're waiting there for the performance. And then suddenly there's shouting and screaming because somebody has like stolen our performer. And it was rather weird. We were like, oh, these locals of the island have taken the performer, and that's what was going around. And then people started describing the uniform that they were wearing, the sort of military style uniform with it was a red stripe, wasn't it?
Yeah, they were like, oh yeah, there's the communists basically.
Yeah, there was communists, and they described it, and this was the point. Like, it got a little bit scary because we're out there, we're a little distance from like the camp stuff, and we then start to like hear screaming and there's gunfire and so on. So then we start going, right, okay, we need to like get back to camp. And as we're heading back, it was really stunting. We've got like Vanderbilt with us as well. He's like, it's fine. I've spared no expense. We have security. It's fine. We're going to run down here
Yeah,
now, but it's fine.
because
Duchess, how are you?
the fighting was getting close, and they were like, "Oh, I'm sure we're fine here. I'm sure we're fine here." I'm like, "You sure?" And it's like, "Yeah, no, it's fine. It's getting closer. You can hear the gunfire getting closer and closer as all like then obviously we had like players like security players like coming back like getting treated by some of the doctors like what kind I'm like what kind of party is this, Vanderbilt? And they're like, oh, it's
Like we're
fine.
at this point, we're not even back at the camp yet. We're still like, oh, because we're like starting to go back to the camp, and then then we're getting chased back to where we were sitting originally, and it's like this back and forth thing. And I remember at this point is when like we all get like our guns out, and then like this is the point where Yolanda like turns to Colt to be like, I haven't been completely honest. And it was a panic of, I think they're here for me.
Yeah. Did it
And
surprise? Because it surprised me massively. Because when you had told me, "Oh,
massively.
I'm playing a Russian," and then Max had been like, "Oh, actually, you're going to be playing Russian royalty," I thought, right, okay, I imagine there's going to be another character that will be like a communist or maybe a few. I did not expect a ton of NPC Russian communists to be on the island, So that was also the big question. We're like, what are they doing here? Like, we're like, what? Why have we got, you know?
So that was the thing, because everyone was saying, "Why are they here? Why are they here?" And that's why, like, she kind of whispers to Colt and was like, "I think they're here for me."
Well, yeah, because you were very
um,
obviously a Dutch and Russian royalty. Like, oh, what?
and we all eventually got back to the town, and once we were back in the town, they basically end up coming into the town and shooting and attacking us. I can't remember if it was like instantly or if we were back for a little while
Yeah,
and then they
it's
came
wibbly
in,
wobbly.
and it was
Yeah,
close
it was a
enough.
long day,
Um,
So
yeah, so they came in and they were shooting at us, and this is when I first got to use my gun, uh, which is quite cool. And yeah, they were like all around us, like crawling out of buildings and everything, and it was absolutely terrifying. Um, People were like ushering me into places as well, being like, oh, don't let them see you. And these were people I didn't really know either. So it instantly made like a few things a little bit suspicious.
yeah.
But yeah, so we had that. We had a lot of cool moments there and everything. of using the guns, and like there was a moment where there was one of them that kept hiding behind this barrel, and I was like, okay, no, I think I've got this. I think I've got this. And they ran around, and I was just like, okay, bang. And they dropped
Yeah.
so quickly that I was like looking at the gun, looking at me like,
yeah, because
what?
I think basically the human enemies one shot and they were dead basically. Also, this is like theatrical LARP as well. So the idea is if it looks like you've been shot, you just react. Basically, that's the rule. It's not, oh yeah, you have to go down if you've been shot, especially if you're a player. But
Yeah.
at least react in some way and be like, oh, you got my arm, or oh, actually, you just shot me in the chest, or like you shot me in the leg, just something. As long as you react or you dive out the way, oh, you just missed me. As long as you react, it's that's how the combat basically worked when it came to firearms.
Which I love.
Yeah, it's funny because I fired my gun off way before you, so I think the timeline is a bit. It won't matter though. It won't change the story a bit. So at this point, I had my artifact for quite a while, and I was like, okay, I'm starting to forget a lot of things now. So lots of people I spoke to earlier in the day, or uh, like especially people I spoke to on the Friday night, I was coming up to speak to them again, and I was just like, I was trying to be subtle, but I wanted to ramp it up relatively quickly. To make sure everyone knew that I was under some sort of roleplay effect. So it was just little things like I think because I had I had a cigarette going the whole time, and then I was just like I started out by being like, "This isn't even lit. Like, why isn't this cigarette lit?" I was just like, "What idiot," you know? And I did that like several times, and then I got to the stage where I was like, "Oh, if we like, did you tell me your name?" Little things like that, and then when I was going around to speak to people for a second time, I was like, "Oh, have we met?" And they were like, yeah, we met yesterday. Yes, all right, okay, cool. And then I tried to have sort of like the same conversation with them twice, so they'd be like, "Oh, you've forgotten me. Maybe you haven't." And then I started ramping it up to like forgetting where I was, forgetting who like the only person I remembered then was you, and I was just like, "Where are we?" I was like, I thought I was in like I was like, "Oh no, we're in like," I was like, "Where's the car?" And I'm like, "Well, there is no cars." Like there is no cars because we're not like we had to leave the cars outside, outside the estate. And I was like, right, okay. And then I was just like, then everyone realized I was under an effect. It's something crazy. Now the funny bit out of character was that it was obvious that people were just letting me keep letting me do it. I literally because I at that point I didn't have my own pocket. I had it in my hand the whole time, and I wasn't. I was like they were like, "Oh, what do you have?" And so someone literally took it off me. I was like, oh yeah." So I was getting that forgetful that I forgot that this is why I was here to get this artifact. I forgot what it was. I was like, they're like, "What's that in your hand?" And I'm like, "I have no idea." And they were like, "Oh, can I have a look?" And literally read the ribbon, and then like it gave it back to me, and I was like, "Oh, okay." Um, but a few of you tried to. Who even took it off me? Was it you that took it off me?
um I didn't, nobody took it off you at all. No one took it off you.
Mm.
You were sitting on the bench and we were talking, and you put it down and you stood up and you went to walk and went, wait, have I forgotten? And at that point, Yolanda like nodded over to Jay's character, and Jay came over and just put his hat on the top of it and scooped it away.
Yeah. So
And then that was it.
so the second part of the role play of that item was that it says when you put this item down, for the next hour, you feel like you have forgotten something important. But your memories come back, but for the next hour, you are going to feel like you've forgotten something, right? And so I put it down, obviously, and then I started remembering where I was and all that. I was like, okay, and then things started getting better. But then I was like walking around being like, I feel like we've forgotten something, And I started asking people. I was just like, and they were like, "Oh, are you feeling better, Colt?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll just." And I would say, "Yeah, no, I'm fine," la la la, and talk to them a little bit. And I was like, "Do you ever get that feeling you've just forgotten something or lost something? Like you feel like you've just missed it." Oh, that was it. I lost something, not forgotten something. You feel like you've lost something. And
Yeah.
"You ever get that feeling where you just feel like I lost something, but I don't know what it is?" And I get like patting my pockets. And I said that to about 2 or 3 different people until I came up to the devil in the top hat, who's just like standing there twirling his mustache. And I was, he was like, "Are you okay, sir?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you ever feel like you just forgotten something?" And he's like, "Oh, lost something?" And he's like, "Oh no, no, you have lost something. You dropped this, sir." And he like got another artifact out of his coat pocket. And I'm like, "Oh, thank you." I took this artifact. And this artifact was so much worse. It was like, it said, I took it and I read the ribbon out of character. I'm like, it said, as soon as you put this down, everyone around you looks like a fish monster and they are coming to kill you. It's like, oh no. And anyway, I'm like, oh, what am I gonna do? So I'm like, okay. So I was like, oh, I don't know where. And I was like, where's Yolanda? I was like, okay. So I end up going into the bar to see where you were, and then you come running out all like stressed out. So where had you been?
Well, a lovely NPC came up to me and said, I compel you to go to that hut over there. So I walked to that hut over there. And there was a group of us, and then we all went inside. And it went pitch black. And then they were like, the MC was like, you guys got your torches? Oh, this is what we didn't mention. Another thing in this game, we had to have a torch on us that shone a red or a green light. Red or green light is they are for OC safety reasons, but in the game nobody can see it. If you have a white light, then it's fair game. Everyone can see you basically. So the NPC was like, has anybody got your lights on you? And all of us were like, no, it's daytime. None of us brought our lights. So they had to kind of sort that out first. And then we were essentially it was really scary. Like the walls were like rattling and things. It was pitch black. And then this like riddle was there. It was like an envelope that we opened up and there was all these like riddles. And we had to come up with these 3 answers. Every time we got something wrong or one of us said out a wrong answer, the NPC said, you lose a marble. You lose 3 marbles. You lose 4 marbles. And it was like we all lost our marbles in that hut, which is why we were all like so when we came out. In the end, we did get the 3 answers. As we got 3 answers, all the shutters like rattled around, and then it stopped, and then this big artifact appeared. We got the artifact and we left, but every single one of us had a different sanity thing. We'd all lost our marbles. My one, I was screaming and running, so I just ran away, screaming straight back to the village. Someone else's was something that basically meant they were frozen to the spot unless someone walked them away. Because every single one of us lost all our marbles, we were all going daft. And this one person was left there for a while, be like, I don't know where to go. But I ran back to the village screaming, found Cole and like grabbed him and was like, you have to protect me. And I was screaming and I was erratic and everything else. And that's when you're like, okay, right, let's go.
That was so
And you
funny.
put
It was so funny. I like out of character. It was so funny because I just looked at it. I was like, as soon as I put this, I'm going to put this down because there's no reason why I wouldn't put it down somewhere because it was a big-ish. I was sort of like, I couldn't put it in my pocket anyway. As I was like, so I'm going to put it down. I was literally thinking, I'm going to put this down. And then I'm gonna have to. I guess I'm gonna start shooting people because everyone's gonna turn into fish people. And then it's just like you came and were like, "Oh, go quickly, come with me." I'm like, "Oh no!" I'm just like, "Hang on!" I just put it down, and I start following you out. And then I'm like looking at all the people, and then I'm just like, but that's the thing. A few things had sort of happened weird enough that the security players were really on edge anyway. So they clocked that I was off straight away. I was just started going like, like that, and they were like, "Sir, like," because I got my gun out, and they were like, "Put down the gun, put down the gun." And I'm like, "No, you're a fish, fish people." I was like, "Damn fish people!" And it was just I shot one of the security people, who then shot me. So I just went down like that. And you were like, "No, Cole!" My hat
oh yeah, like
flying.
I ran in front of the security and like grabbed you so they couldn't shoot anymore. And I also like really quickly grabbed your gun because I had noticed the security taking everyone's guns. And a few people mentioned that. So I grabbed your gun that was on the ground and hid it in my bag,
Well
like
done.
with my gun. Because I was like, everyone's taking their guns. I'm hiding mine in my bag, and no one's gonna come up to Duchess Shuland and be like, let me see inside your bag. So, she was like hiding both of them in there.
Yeah. And so they had a traumatic wound system in this game as well. I can't remember the mechanics of it off the top of my head. They had they had dice. They had like d6s. The medics. So I think so they had like critical fails was basically the thing, or critical success were the two things, and then you basically read the wound, and it would have obviously one roleplay effect for a success, one for a failure. So yeah, I got taken into the hospital. They had a little hospital building, and then they just started performing surgery on me. They were busy, the medical people, doing surgery the entire game. And yeah, I ended up getting a little shrapnel taken out on my out my stomach, because I got shot. It was really fun to
It was
roleplay.
amazing fun role play. Another mechanic that these sort of like doctors, medics had is they had their own personal, like, I think it was a D6, and they could choose. So for example, they'd roll a dice, and it would either be like a full success, a partial success, which is like, you're better, but you're still like struggling, or like a failure, which is it's gonna get worse, you're gonna need surgery, sort of thing. But they also had their own personal D6 where they got to roll it and add it, but they only got to do that once, I think. So it was like quite, extreme. So this is the first time that you got there. And it was a failure. It was a complete failure on your rolls.
It was quite fun.
Yeah, it was a complete failure. And that's where they were like, yeah. So they like did all the surgery. The best feature is they gave us all something for the pain.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, there we go. Here's some whiskey, just like
And they were like every single. It was so funny watching.
Yeah.
You were like, "Oh, you're all fish people. You're all fish people." And he was like, "Do you want real whiskey or fake whiskey?" And you were like, "Oh, real, please."
Yeah.
You're all fish people.
Yeah, it was quite funny because I think my role play was like 15 minutes or something like that. To how long I stopped seeing fish people, and the doctor, the doctor that was over me, like, do that. He's like, I need some help here. And this other doctor came up. I was like, not him. He's a fish. Like, he's like, oh, maybe you had better, maybe not you.
It was hilarious. We finished up this bit, and he said that in maybe in an hour.
Yeah, it was like 2
you're
hours.
Going to have to come. Yeah, you're going to have to come back, basically.
Yeah.
And we headed out. Now, at this point, you'd lost your marbles; they were gone. But you've been given painkillers from the hospital. So this was an interesting one because it didn't really show up straight away that you lost your marbles.
Yeah.
And like Yolanda was like, well, yeah, like that makes sense. Like, why wouldn't you on pain relief?
Yeah. Because this is the thing. This is about time I had lunch, because I remember when we had lunch, I was looking at the clock, being like, "Oh, my wound's gonna come back with a vengeance right after lunch, basically."
Yeah.
So, and I think at that point, so these artifacts were like causing havoc, because like I think Mark had got in this similar situation, and I didn't actually see this. I just saw it from a distance, but it's hilarious when I heard the story. So was it a painting or a photograph?
I thought it was a painting.
God knows it, and it was one of the artifacts anyway. It was a photograph or a painting, and when you looked at it, apparently it said you can't take your eyes off of this, and you're like basically motionless until someone snaps you out of it, basically. And then if and then when you look away, the longer that you've looked at this thing, the worse that you go crazy, basically.
Yeah.
So apparently it was just a hilarious story I heard from the weekend. Apparently, like, one of the researchers went, "Oh," and then another researcher went, "What are you looking at?" And then another person would be like, "Hey, what are you two looking at?" And then a fourth person would be like, "Hey, what are you lot looking at?" And apparently there was just like a crowd of people looking at this photograph that couldn't get away from whatever it was, this image, just looking at this artifact. And they were all just stuck there, and they were just like, apparently they went out of character. Just someone go get help, or someone grab it from us, because they were all just stood there watching it. Because I remember them looking huddled, because they were off over by the the researcher bit. So yeah, those
No, it was
artifacts
hilarious.
caused a lot, and I think out of character, like from the game runner's point of view, I think they didn't expect things to go to shit so quickly. Everyone's shooting each other, but that's literally what was causing it. Was the artifacts were just causing people to go crazy. But there was several things going on at once because people were, one, losing their marbles because of a couple of the encounters that were going out. Then the rest of us were losing our minds on with the artifacts. So we're all just turning on each other, you know. So we're all shooting each other. There was barely any enemies at that point, you know. So because I think
Well,
this
like,
did
you
happen
know,
before the communist thing, because
well,
we're all shooting each other like crazy.
well, the first lot of communist things happened quite early,
It
and
did.
then there
You're
was
right.
more
There
afterwards. But
was, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Because then they
um,
came and attacked us, then didn't they? The communists came and attacked us like mid-afternoon, and they invaded the camp,
yeah, because like
the camp. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, this is when we were kind of like getting closer and closer to lunch as well. And as we're getting closer to lunch, this is when we had a few things that were put in place to kind of help those that were just had totally lost their marbles at this point. So there was somebody going around with like tea that lets you restore your marbles. So
Oh,
that was
so
good.
before that, like I completely lost. I was really losing my marbles. I got some like. Do you not remember? So I think after
I was
the
about to say that, yeah, because I thought
yeah
that happened around about the same sort of time. But
yeah. Well, it
yeah.
was after because I got so we'll go over it. I'm pretty sure it was I had my second surgery after lunch basically, and
Yeah,
then
so
I
this
was
was all
fine.
before lunch.
Yeah.
This was all before lunch.
No, it wasn't.
It was because the lunch bell rang and I went out of character. Where's Oliver? And you were still in the hut with them, and I had to come over to the hut to see if you were there because they were dishing up lunch.
Oh, were they? All right,
Yeah.
cool. I must have. Oh, you know what? Actually, I had an out of character. Like, just I think I just had like a little like timeout. Actually, that's
Oh,
what it
maybe
was. That's why I'm
yeah,
getting
yeah,
confused. Yeah, because I think I had a little timeout and be like, I'm going to come back in the game when I'm just before I need to go back to surgery because yeah, I was getting a little bit tired. Um, but yeah, like I came back and I got my second surgery. And yeah, because I think at this point there was definitely like this is definitely our point of view, but there was lots of stuff going on. So I think people were going off and investigating where the communist camp was and things like that. There was lots about that. I ended up getting like some like because I was like I'm starting to lose marbles and I'm like I need something stronger, so I ended up getting like some in character opium from someone. So then I got to roleplay just being high on opium for a good a good while.
Oh dear, yeah. And then like so as you were like getting to that point and everything, um around about this time, so I'd had like the tea and everything, restored all my marbles, felt great. And then around about this time, you had gone off somewhere with one of the NPCs into a hut to have a therapy session, essentially,
Yeah.
which I believe did that restore all your marbles.
Yeah, I got completely hypnotized. Yeah, it was like a little encounter basically. I
That's
got,
cool.
but yeah, I'm pretty sure like I think it was Johnny as well. Like he got
Yeah,
just
it
sent in
was.
to be. I think they got sent in to be like, let's try and de like sanitize, desanitize, that's the wrong term.
Restore
Restore
sanity.
sanity, restore sanity of some of these players, you know, because they're going a bit off the rails a bit too soon. So yeah, I got like hypnotized, and I went basically back up to full. Then I was like, cool, I'm good. I've just got a wound, you know, but I'm back to good old cult, you know.
Yeah.
But although
Um
I did come back thinking, right, I'm sort of second guessing the artifact thing, um, because the problem I think the problem with my goal, because my main goal was like I like there's really ancient artifacts and they have to be mine. And it got to the point where there was the really old one that I think it was the one you found, the one that ended up like being really important,
yeah, it was,
right?
yeah.
It was that one that I was like, well, that's the one Colt would want. But as the weekend played out, it didn't really make sense to keep pursuing that, and it'll kind of make sense why when we carry on the
Yeah.
story. But yeah,
Yeah, because so then it was like lunchtime and we head off for lunch and everything. Around about this time, the radio broadcast had changed slightly. And this is when they started mentioning character names and things like that. They mentioned Duchess Yolanda in this radio broadcast that was put out. Our character, I believe it was Abby, that was doing a lot of the voiceover for this. And it was really well done. And yeah, so we had this like radio show, and it was almost meant to be like sort of like live radio show that was on. And a few people kept coming up being like, they've already said this. This is why are they repeating this? They've already said it. And a few people were getting a wee bit freaked out by that.
Mm.
So we went off, we had lunch, we all had a bit of a break for like an hour.
Yeah.
Well, everyone had lunch. And then when we came in, that's when like you instantly were like, okay, like now I'm like actually dying. We had to go back for your second surgery at that point. And this is why the dice thing's important, because you failed again. Your dice failed a second time. Ooh, and that's when the doctor went, I'm gonna use my special dice and add to it.
I was just gonna die otherwise.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So he managed to actually save you.
But things were really starting to ramp up. Like people were literally like, they just randomly, people would just go bah, and then there would be a fight, and someone was literally trying to stab someone, and it was like crazy. There was more reports. Like I wasn't the only person talking about fish people as well. I think at that point someone had an encounter with an actual fish person, because I remember being like, well, what do they look like to the researchers? I remember the research being like, oh, they went out into the woods and they saw a fish person, and I was like, what? I think I took a couple of marbles off myself. I'm like, what do you mean a fish person? You know, it must be a hallucination like I had. You know, it's just a hallucination. You know, and it was so that there was they did well at kind of like foreshadowing, or at least it seemed like that anyway. It was like foreshadowing this like fishy craziness. Did we? There was definitely, so there was obviously the communists that we were going, right, where's their base? We got attacked by the communists. Then there was there was this cult that people started talking about as well. Um, when did we go to our encounter with the one we did together?
Right. So this I don't remember the exact like timing of that encounter. Oh no, I do remember it. Okay, got it. Right. So flash back a little bit, because I meant to mention this a little bit earlier. So the devil came for his favor, and his favor was he came to Yolanda and said, you are suddenly obsessed with the color yellow. Anything to do with the color of yellow, you're drawn towards. You also really need to find out about a place called Kokoza. And at every opportunity, I had to ask about it. And that was the only information I got. So this was like earlier on, and this takes us to where we are now.
Yeah.
So it's after lunch. Colt's had his surgery. He is no longer obsessed with narcotics. And around about this point is when there's a lot of things going around, okay? People are talking about a cult. People are talking about the communists. There is a lot of conspiracies going around, and everyone's a bit on edge. And at this point, we are compelled to go back to that same hut.
Yeah, so there was us and a few others. What was interesting was that like it wasn't the whole player base, but it was like a good like 10 of us, I imagine. Like
Yeah, I think about 10 of us, and all mixed as well,
Yeah.
mixed with different backgrounds and things. And we got there, and we all got into this hut, and we all sat down like around the perimeter of this hut on the like the inside, and all the lights went off. I learned from last time. I went and got my green torch, so a few of us put our little lights on and everything, and then came the king in yellow.
He was actually in
appeared
yellow.
in front of us.
Some people some Cosmic Horror fans would have recognized the reference of Kokoza and probably saw that coming. But we were in the presence of the king in yellow, which is really cool.
So some keen-eyed people here would have noticed that it was Max Berry standing there in a bright yellow suit. And yeah, we got some really cool role play where we were
funny. I don't actually know how much to like. Most people who watch this will never play the next game, so that there is already a second game in a different setting, but it's a continuation of this game. So I don't know how much I want to actually say what the King Yellow told us, because some players that might do the next game
Yeah.
won't have the information that our
Yeah.
characters had. Just I don't want to. I don't basically. Most people who listen to this won't obviously go to that game, but just in case there's like one or two people that didn't have
Okay.
all the information.
In that case, yeah, King in Yellow appeared. And he appeared because he knew that we'd all been asking about him. And the information we got, we asked a few questions, gave us some rather cryptic answers. And I think I can say this bit because it does link on to something else, is that we simply had to find someone there who was working for him. And no, it was not the devil. And that was pretty much
I mean, the
it. There
devil
was a
was
few,
the devil character was working for him. Like
yeah,
that was his agent.
yeah, but it was
Yeah.
someone else there, someone who we would not expect, and we had a sentence to tell them, and that was it basically.
Mm.
Um,
But yeah, he
yeah,
basically told us that there's obviously something weird going on the island. It's not him that's causing it. Um, all these artifacts, because that's the thing. The researchers were coming up with like, why are all none of these artifacts are like indigenous artifacts? That was the thing. None of these artifacts are like from the island. Like, and it was just like, well, what? Why are they all here? You know? And the King Yellow like speculated that, well, you know, there's basically the island brings them. You know, and he did say a few other things that might be connected to a great storyline. So I was like, but yeah, that was the basics of it. And you know, we were like, obviously we left probably more confused than when we came out, but we knew there was
I
definitely
mean,
something weird going on.
at this point, for those of you who have watched Lost, at this point, turn into Lost. The island brings them, as I'm giving you all this information, and my opposite out there is giving you some other information, and you know they're basically turned into Lost at this point. And I was like, oh, okay, shit, oh, we're gonna do now.
Yeah. So obviously, then we're like, because you and I are kind of allies, right? And you are like, a few people are coming up to you being like, you know, oh yeah, I'll protect you. Some people were like, oh, just be careful because anyone could be a communist. You know, they're everywhere.
Even me.
Even me, you know. So it's just so we were like, we need to get off this island. Obviously, a lot of creepy things had happened. The Vanderbilt was still around. There was people starting to accuse him of being behind either the communists being there or the culty stuff that was going on, and people dying and things like that. So people were then starting to get a little bit desperate, and we were like, right, we need to get off. So like Mark's character is like the doctor. He's not the doctor, but like the archaeologist doctor of archaeology. Is like, oh yeah, you know, he was being really pally with us and being like, right, okay, I think we should get. Yeah, I think like he keeps coming up to Colt and being like, he's like, oh yeah, I think we need to get Yolanda off this island. And I'm like, yeah, well, I think we all need to get off the island.
So, yeah, because a letter is received, and this letter is read aloud, and it's not very clear who it's from. And it is essentially, and it mentions Yolanda, and it mentions the fact that she survived the fire. Now let's go back a little bit to the fact that everyone's talking about a mysterious fire in New York, which automatically puts a bit of a target on Yolanda. And it's like, Yolanda's the only one that's like, they're not talking about that fire. They're talking about the fire in my own mansion. The fire that, you know, killed and destroyed everything I knew and loved. The fire I escaped from that no one knows about apart from whoever wrote this letter. And that instantly creates a bit of a target. So there are many people that approach Yolanda advising her, and she didn't trust anyone. There was the other Russian there, and in her head, she's like, well, you're the only logical person that might be with them. And he's like, no, like, you know, you need to get off, you need to get to
Yeah,
safety.
yeah, because he
I'm
was
going to
like,
head.
yeah, because he wasn't a socialite Russian. He was
Nope.
like an either an underdog or a security.
Security. Yeah, one of
Yeah,
those.
basically a lower class, more of a lower class Russian. So if you're,
Mm.
yeah, you're like, meh.
Yeah, you don't know about you. Um, so that was a bit strange. There was the maid on the island who had befriended Yolanda from the Friday night. She um And Yolanda actually thought it was because she had showed the maid kindness on the Friday night.
Was she
When
the
a lot of
maid for the Vanderbilts, or was she a maid that was brought
yes,
in? Right,
she
cool.
was a maid for the
Yeah,
Vanderbilts,
because we
but
had
she had
sorry, just to clarify, because we had players who were playing people that had been on the island the whole time, as in like staff on the island. Because we had like the
mhm,
butler, and we had yeah, a couple of the maids were literally, they weren't visitors, they were a part of the island staff basically.
according to her, the only person that was there before they got there was the butler. The rest of them were all brand new staff. Their first time there was when we were all arriving.
Yeah.
So on the Friday night, like she was like struggling to get like to the bar, and she was acting a little bit skitterish, like, oh, I'm getting out the way. And Yolanda was actually quite kind to her and literally went, oh, it's okay. Do you want a hand? And she actually offered to help her. And in my head, I was like, oh, that's not what a socialite would do. But then I was like, oh, maybe that was good. Maybe that offered a bit of friendship, because she kept coming up to Yolanda and being really kind and, speaking to her, just getting to know her like a friend. So I'd made this friend. And as things got more and more serious and she started to come up and she was like, yeah, I heard that your name was mentioned in the letter and everything. She's like, she started to offer me a way off the island. And she was like, no, like I've got a way off the island. It wouldn't cost you anything. Like, I need to get you off the island. You need to be safe. Um, the actor needs to get off as well. So the actor is actually paying enough to cover everyone. And we're going to get you off the island, and did this whole thing. So I ended up like with the actor. Person playing the actor was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I think they did a good job with their kit, because they had like these like real fancy pajamas, but their thing was that they left their suitcase or something, and their
No,
suitcase had been
their
lost.
luggage went missing.
They went missing, and they just wear the
The
pajamas the
whole
whole
time I was
time.
like, my luggage has gone missing. I'm normally much more lavish than this.
That's such a good
It
character
was
bit.
a beautiful silk robe,
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
And we were there, and things started getting really suspicious, because like the letter that being read out, like Yolanda didn't hear it. Like I didn't hear the letter getting read out. I just got told parts of it. And I was only getting told this by Mark's character, because if I'd actually listened to the letter getting read out, it literally says, I have befriended Yolanda. And I was like,
Oh
whoa,
yeah,
like that would have
we didn't find this out until later though.
way later,
We didn't find-
because Yolanda made friends with two people. On that, two people. That was it. And it would have instantly narrowed it right down.
Even if I had
Only
read it,
like,
I would have been like, no,
mm,
because so again, we'll talk about after we say what's kind of happened, I guess. But I was like, we can't trust anyone, and then like out of character, I kind of twigged some, because I knew obviously this is a horror game. We're not getting off the island, obviously,
yeah,
but out of character, I kind of twigged something was like how friendly Mark's character was being, but only up until the very point where we were like, the boat is leaving at this time at this place, and I was like, why? Hang on, how would Colt think they're here? So we're on this island. We can't trust anybody. We're probably going to die if we stay here. We have to trust someone. That there's no reason not to go to take this opportunity. So I remember like leaning into you, being like, "Oh, we better just keep an eye on our doctor friend as well. Like, just keep an eye
yeah, because
on
you
everyone."
said that. So we're all together. We're told there's a boat going off the island. It's leaving at 5. And we're there. And then Max comes up out of character, and he kind of looks at us all, and he does what looks like a little bit of an eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Like, I'm just randomly going to select one of you to go on this. We know that wasn't the case, because he pointed at you and sent you off to do a encounter. He did an I compel you to you.
Yeah, he's like, "I compel you to go over
Leaving.
there by that gate," and I was like, and
Okay.
I just walked away from the group.
So we waited. We sent people after you, like looking for you. So his cat just appeared from the side here. I don't know how the cat got here. I don't know what it's doing.
It's creepy. It's not what it seems.
It's after my marbles.
Does
Not
it
my
have
marbles. My
tentacles?
marbles. Sorry. Yeah, so we sent a few people to go looking for you and they couldn't find you. Obviously, because out of character, we know they're not going to find you.
Would it be more thematic to tell my version of the story and then we'll backtrack?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Because I think this is pretty cool. So I get compelled to go wait, and we go on an encounter. I don't want this episode to be like 5 hours long, so I'll kind of speed through this a little bit. So me and like 4 or 5 others went on this encounter. We met with some witches. Yeah, so we saw these. They were basically like, they were 3 witches, a little bit like the Fates, I guess. And they were the witches of the island. Weirdly enough, we recognized a few of them as people from like the Friday, and they were going to give us like 3 bits of information. And so that we asked, we had all these questions. They gave us a little bit of information, but they were like, no, we're not giving you like, we've got information, but you have to give something, right? So and it was like, it was kind of rough stuff. I can't remember. I'm not going to go through everything. But they asked for certain things, and we basically had to be like, how much do we want to find out? Basically, they were like, oh, we can give you 1 piece of information. Let me see if I can remember. 1 piece of information about the communists, 1 piece of information about the cultists, and then 1 piece of information about, I think it was probably the island or something. So we had to give up something. I volunteered to give up like the happiest memory of my life. It was like it was
Okay.
things like that, and each character like had to we had to basically like prove to sacrifice, and they gave us information. So we got information like I think the information I got was about the cult, and I got the name of the cult basically, which weirdly enough I can't actually remember what the name of the cult was. But at that time I was like, okay, the name of the cult is this, so then I can go and tell some people. The weird thing about that whole thing was when I later then went, oh yeah, this is the information. They were like, where did you get this information? And I got more like questioning of like, are you just crazy than anything else? But we also got like named members of the cult as well, and one of them was like a character, just obviously a player character that was there all Friday night, basically. So we got a lot of information on like the cult. So anyway, I come back, and knowing that you guys had been off to the boat at 5, I missed the boat. So I was like, are they gone? And I kind of asked around, and I was like, oh, is in fact, no, I didn't. I did because I was like, no, I don't want to like in character. I'm like, well, it makes sense more for my character. I wouldn't ask where they were just in case I blew what you were about to do because you were going off in secret. So I just kind of carried on. I was just like, oh, okay, well, yeah, hopefully they made it off the island. I'm like, wow, right, what am I gonna do? So there's this whole like, right, other characters, other storylines are going on. They're like, right, we found the communist camp. We think we should take the fight to them. And I'm like, a few of us are like, what? Okay, go on then. They're like, no, I think we should all go to take the fight. I'm like, oh, me and a few of the other like non-coms were like, oh. We were like, okay, I guess well, whatever. Okay, well let's do it. If we think we can overpower them, that's fine, you know. So we head off to the communist camp. We're trudging through the woods. And we're like quiet, sneak up. We can see communist soldiers like patrolling backwards and forwards. And then we sneak up. Then a firefight breaks out, and I'm at the back because again I'm like, a cult doesn't really want to be in the front. So I'm like I'm moving up, and then the maid comes up and says, Colt, you gotta help Yolanda. You gotta help Yolanda. She's over there. All right, and I start running, and I see Yolanda and the doctor like on the floor. Right. So, Robyn, what happened? what happened in the interim of that?
So, the doctor came back to me and I said, I'm not leaving this island without Colt. And he came back and he said, look, we can't find him. We need to get you to the pier. Will you please just come to the pier with us? and wait at the pier where it's safe. And then I'm going to run back and I'm going to find them for you. Just come to the pier, okay? You're not going to get on the boat and we're not going to make you get on the boat, but please, we need to go. It's our only opportunity. At that point, my little sea brain kicked in and went, oh, Mark, you asshole. I went, okay, let's go to the pier. And we all head out. And we walk to crew tent and we're walking there and Mark's like, I'm so sorry. I was like, you're awful. And you like switches, like they all switch their things around to show the badges and everything. And I was like, oh my God. So we got there. Myself and the person playing the actor, we were kind of there, but we weren't there. So like every so often we had to like stand off to the side and like be like, la 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 la, we don't know what's happening here, because they were all doing their briefings. And then they walked us out to the woods. It was quite a lengthy walk, and it was us along with like 5 people in the camp that were, you know, had double crossed us in the sands, including the actual like police chief, like the actual or investigator. Like, what was he?
He was like a French police officer, basically.
Yeah. So all these people I interacted with, and they were all there, and it was like great. And this is when so we actually met some pretty cool crew members who did an amazing job at role playing out all these roles. They were terrifying. They walked us out into the middle of the woods and they sat us down. But we were there as prisoners, and we were there, and they were just awful. Now the maid sits in front of us with a gun at us and just sits there the entire time holding this gun at us, like not moving. Obviously we've got like the doctor and everything, they're all like chatting around us and stuff, just like you know, whatever. And we like there was so many people that was there, and I was like, I'd kind of interacted with some of them but not all of them, and they were all shocking like to be there. And the person that was in charge of them was just like full on the accents. Well done, everybody. They did such a good job with the accents. Even the maid just like switched into her actual accent.
Because I think she was the only
beautiful.
one with the Southern American accent that wasn't actually. It was a fake Southern American accent because
It
she
was
was a communist.
amazing. It's the way that she turned to us and went, oh well, like who would think that I would be part of such an awful thing? And she did this sort of voice, and I was like, oh my God, you awful person. And then, but it got really deep. So the role play, a trigger warning here, for the sort of murder of Yolanda's family, because this is where the role play got heavy, where the maid revealed that she was the one that killed Yolanda's little sister. And she like went into detail and everything, and it was horrific. Oh, the role play. The person in charge and everything was just like oh, it was amazing. Yolanda's response, like I pretend to like spit at like her feet and like look away sort of thing, and just like wasn't giving them anything. The actor though, he kept going, the issue is my legs keep getting, so I'm going to stand up and then sit down. Okay, I will give you a countdown. 3, 2, 1. I will stand up and I will sit down. And he kept doing this, and they were getting really agitated by him. I was like, I'm just going to stretch my arms and I'm leaning back here again. And he was doing this a lot. Now, then it was this point where it was like almost like an out of character point of this bit, and we kind of all had a bit of a giggle. You guys couldn't find us. We were too quiet.
Yeah.
And they were like, there was like a bit on like the comms where one of them was like, okay, I'm gonna go over here, and they went, I'm going to patrol down here.
Yeah. Oh no, yeah.
Wow, I'm going to patrol down here to trying to, because you'd all come so close and then you went the other way.
Yeah, it didn't have that. To be fair, from our point of view, they didn't have that effect at all. It felt very like we were being like very incognito, and we were sneaking up on you, and yeah, it was quite funny.
And then and this point was brilliant, because the whole time the actor had been playing with oh my gosh, what was it? It was like a piece of string or a piece of rope. It was something he was playing with. It was his bandage. He had a bandage on his arm.
Okay, yeah.
And he looked at, we knew he was going to do it, because out of character, he did a quick check into the person, being like, hey, are you okay if I like put this over your head and
Garrot
against
you.
you here?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they did like, yeah, you can do that. That's absolutely fine. And he went back to the seat and he was like doing this whole thing. And he looked to me and he was like, he could give me a nod. And then he like he shouted something. He was like, oh, they're over there. And then he jumps up and put the rope around like one of the guards. And at that point, you all jumped out. Literally everyone was focused on him when you all jumped out. It was beautiful. And the maid turned around and she fired all her shots off really quickly, and she was like, oh no, and it wasn't working. And then she saw you and dropped the gun and went, oh no, help me.
Yeah, help
I was
me.
like,
And she
it's
ran, and then
her.
yeah, and they like all embraced her. So I run over to you. So now with all that context, I run over to you and I'm like, Yolanda, and then I see the doctor on the ground. I'm like, oh no, you're both on the ground. And then the doctor obviously then stands up and is like, Viva la Resistance, and freaking shoots me.
Resistance, yeah.
Just like not
Shot
before
me in
I
the leg.
yeah.
Shot you. I was like crawling away, and as I crawled away, I come across one of the other people like who was with us and everything. She's like, no, I've got you, I will look after you and stuff. And we're all like trying to get back, and she's like, no, I'm going to take you back, okay, we need to get back. And then we're sitting there in the bushes, and like Yolanda's like, but I out of card, I was like, oh, this is where Fiona dies. I'm not getting out of this. I'm gonna die. So I was like, oh my god, I'm still alive. And I was like there.
You were like the maid. It was the maid all along. So I'm
Oh,
like
it was
shouting
I was
over to. I'm like,
screaming.
really? And I'm obviously like bleeding out with my leg. I'm like, I can't move. And then I'm like crawling to the people that have like taken the other people in our group that have taken the maid in, being like, it's all okay. And I'm like, she's a communist, like this.
Well,
and
like at this
like,
point here,
what?
I was like, so when we were all like, trying to get away, I saw Trixie, who was one of our performers, and I said, and I like shouted over to Trixie. I said, Trixie, because I didn't think I was going to get out of this, and I gave Trixie all the information. I said, it's the maid. I said, these are the 5 names. These are the people. They are the ones. And I gave her those names. And then the other person was like leading me out, and we were like hiding behind this bush. And I was like, this is it, it's over. And she looked at me and was like, I think you want to be my friend. And I looked at her and saw her yellow scarf that was around her. And I took the scarf in my hands and I said the words that the king in yellow had told me to say. And then she got me out of there. It was such a beautiful piece of roleplay.
Yeah, that's really cool. So God, yeah, I like after that we obviously went back to the camp, and I think we had like, I think we had decided at that point with our characters how like broken we were, because obviously then it was a case of like that, like these people are the communists that are still in our camp, because I think at that point there was only like 2 of them, right? Or maybe only one, maybe only the maid, right? Maybe 2. So we were like, these are the communists. Then people weren't believing us. We were like, no, because obviously then there was a whole like, well, you've got like this southern rich guy and this duchess, accusing the help of being communist. Doesn't make any sense with all the extra craziness. And we were just like, yeah, you know what? We kind of resigned ourselves to like, this is crazy. I don't think we're getting out of here. At around about that point, the camp got attacked by a fish. There was fish encounters as well.
Yeah.
There's like those monster encounters that a few other people were, but the main one that I remember seeing for the first time was the fish guy with the sword, that came into the camp that no one could take down.
That was when Vanderbilt hid at my legs, and he like crouched and was like, protect me, and he was like hiding down by me and everything. I was like,
yeah. I think it was at that point as well people started to realize that Vanderbilt wasn't behind, the Vanderbilt family wasn't behind this, or Vanderbilt himself wasn't behind this, so this basically fish person came in with this sword, and he was running back forward, and we wouldn't go down. He was a proper monster, right? So we couldn't, like, trying to shoot him and kill him was a pain.
And then we realized we needed to use the sword. We had like like an artifact, like a sword artifact.
No, he had the sword. That's how we got the sword.
Oh,
yeah,
no, we had to use the artifact gun to take him down, didn't we?
It was one of those things. Yeah, because there was like an artifact helmet, and then it was like, oh, this is how we kill the monsters. We need the artifacts to kill the actual monsters.
Yeah, and and it was, oh my gosh, like, so I got to have my little surgery. I got to have my little shot of whiskey. get myself
Yeah.
all sorted out. And I remember this point here, you and I actually took a time out. So did Mark. So the three of us went back to the hut, and we had like probably a good like 30 to 40 minutes.
Yeah, because obviously
we had a lengthy turn him out.
Yeah, so Mark's character was dead, so he got shot to ribbons because he was like female resistance.
What a shame!
What a shame. So he was like, well, you know, my character's on the game now, so yeah, I think we did like a little like debrief of what happened, and we talked about the letter and things like that. We're like, oh, for God's sake.
Yeah, he came back to the hut. He was like, "Can I come in?" Because we were all sharing a hut together. And yeah, he got the letters and everything, and we all just had like a chat and a debrief. And we went out of character. We had some food and stuff, and just had because we do that anyway in games. With a game like this, it's so taxing. You do need to have that break. So we had a break, and then we came back into the game. And I decided at this point, Yolanda was gone. She wasn't screaming and frightened anymore. She wasn't this like, you know, scared person that's had to flee. I literally sat there like gun in hand, elbow in the lap, just like, come on then, what do you want?
Yeah. So
and I went really heavy into like the Russian accents, but I was like, yeah,
because it's starting to get dark now. Now I will say as well, even though we didn't experience it, because we didn't experience a lot of the apart from I had information about the cult and things like that. What other people were experiencing, there was basically a few reports of people dying and then just standing up and coming back.
Oh yeah,
basically there was a few reports of that, people just being like, oh, I'm dead, and then they came up and they were all like and like fishy and weird. Basically there's a few reports of that the whole group didn't see, and I'm assuming that was then as it was dark and getting later and later. There was a lot of like there was so much game going on with like artifact, because the researchers were like hiding the artifacts, weren't they?
Oh, they were, and some of them were going completely lost their minds. They didn't want to put them down. They were like,
because they were like, oh, the communists are after the artifacts, right? So they were like, we need to keep the artifacts safe from the communists.
Sorry, that whole time I was caught, they did the villain monologue. They told me their plan.
Yeah, and what did they tell you, since you are the one that heard the monologue?
To remember. No, they were like, they stood there and they were like, you know, we you are just here to appease like our creature, and we will feed you we will feed you to our creature, which is like at this point still like meant to be like an infant, and it will grow, and this island will become, you know, the center point. You know, we will control the entire world from this island. And the reason they had Yolanda is because she was a duchess, and they had the actor because of all the like wealth and everything that he had like accumulated as well. And they just did this whole thing where they were like telling us that they had these monsters on the island, they had a really big monster, that they were going to feed us all to it, that everyone was going to be killed. This entire island itself was going to turn into this sort of like hub for everything. And it was going to then go on and rule the entire world using these creatures. And we just sit there while they were giving this entire villain monologue, which was really well done. I was really glad I survived to then like repeat the villain monologue to as many people as I could straight after. Go, it's gonna go soon.
So I can't remember, again, timeline is difficult in my head, but to wrap this part up, a few people had obviously been like investigating like the communist side of it, and a few people came to us who were close to the maid and were just like, look, what actually happened, you know? And we were like, because we were like, we're fed up with being not believed, and we were just like, look, and we were like smoking and drinking, weren't we? And just being like, there were 5 communists among us, this person, that person, and the maid, who was the only one left. And we were like, I think you were like, go inside her satchel, you'll see her insignia. Do with that information what you want.
I literally described it exactly to them. I said, this big, it's in there, go get it now. And do what you need to. And this was like one of her friends had come to us, and they found it.
Later in the night, they were like, hey, look, just so you know, you were right, we found, or they just came out and went, yeah, we found it, we're gonna take care of it, you've been wronged. We're gonna take care of it. So apparently,
now, we weren't part of this, but from every single person who was part of it, they all went, it was horrific when they killed the maid. So it was like, damn. But there was no reason for Yolanda or Colt to be part of it. We're like, no, we're done with this. You go take care of it. We're going to stay here. We trust each other. And that's it.
Yeah. So I think this then takes us to like the end of this, like the second act. So
Yeah.
we all then it's dark. It's dark now. Well, it's just basically the sun's gone down. It's now dark. And an NPC says to the entire player base, "I compel you to go down to the woods."
Yeah.
Which is a real genius thing that they went, okay, I'm going to get the entire player base to go down to the woods. We went down to the woods. There they've got like a fort basically, but what they'd done, they had like they put like rigged lighting above the gate of the fort, and we all went down there, and we had been told, you're being compelled until you see flashing lights. As soon as you see flashing lights, then you're no longer compelled, right? So
Yeah.
we'll walk down there. We all line up in front of this altar, right in front of the gate, and around the altar are these hooded figures, right? And on the altar is Vanderbilt, right, our host, right, and he's like squirming away. I mean, like our character, a lot of us were like, "Oh my god, we're literally in a cutscene in a LARP."
It was really
like,
it was incredible. Like
yeah,
it was, everyone was so excited. Like our
yeah.
character were like, "Oh my god, we're in a cutscene."
So these cultists with these hoods up, then obviously then they get this well it was this important because they had a certain amount of artifacts, right, weapons,
Mm.
and they sacrifice Vanderbilt, right?
Yeah,
And
there
then,
was 3 of them, and
yeah,
they each had a dagger.
yeah. So they then stab Vanderbilt,
It was
and then
horrific.
yeah, and then they pull back their hoods, and they are people that have been in our midst the whole time, including like the butler and that, and we were like,
The butler.
ah! And
But at
then
this point here, like we don't know yet until then the flashing lights start, aren't
yeah,
they?
and then the flashing lights start, and we're like, oh, no longer compelled. But obviously, then we are like, we are a long way away from the town. I keep calling it the camp, but the town, where the light is and all our stuff is. We are in the middle of the woods. It is dark, and the lights start flashing. We're like, oh, and then you hear this, and then all these like fish zombies start running at us. Like,
But like just before that, just before they all run at us, okay, because it all kind of like the lights start flashing and the smoke is all around, and then this Cthulhu like monster thing starts coming out, and
mm,
then everyone's running and screeching at us, and we just had to like run
yeah, that
back
was
to camp.
so
We were
that.
all so close, we couldn't actually fire the guns off really safely because we were all so close together.
Yeah, so this is like the panicky like "Brah!" like bit where we're all just like because that's when we all start using our like get off me's and things like that. We're all like moving because we're trying to get away, but we're trying to get away in like in a huddle, and then they're all trying to attack us and jump scare, and then they're obviously jumping out
Oh,
of
they were
bushes
coming
at
up from the
us and the
sides. They were
side, and people were
oh
like obviously because it's pitch black, people firing guns off. So you just heard the bang and the flash of the lights and things like that, and we couldn't see because obviously we're like in character you couldn't see, but like out of character, obviously, you just had the green lights and things like that. Was the lighting? So we were like, ah, just like get. So we all stampede off, back to the town. And obviously, by the time we got back to the town, like when we talked to Max about this, because again we interviewed Max and we'll release that after this one. Like Max had mentioned about how crazy this got with the monsters. They were like hunting us down, and we got into the town and we were like barricading ourselves into buildings and things like that. So we
oh
got into the so we went to the bar, right?
yeah.
Obviously. So we went into the bar, right? And obviously it's social.
Not
That's
gonna
the
drink
thing.
there.
Like in my head, I kind of thought that the socialites would be the first to die. I'm like, oh yeah, we got the least shots, we got the least get off me's. We're probably the most arrogant and ignorant that we just wander off and just get killed. But we were like some of the last people around because we had just avoided danger the entire time. So we're like in the bar, and then there were a few people with like that were willing to fight. Were like then the bar had like a back entrance, front entrance onto the main street, and they were coming in both ends. And we were like, I was like firing a shot off here and there, and they came into the inn, and I was like, get off me like that, and that was my first get off me, and I was like,
First off, 3.
yeah, first of three. And then someone said to us, "Oh, we need guns out. Like, if you've got guns, like we need like cover the back, like go out the back." So like you and I go out of the back into this little square they've got. And I'm like, I shoot one, and it goes, ah, and then another one comes at me, and it's like grabs me. I'm like, get off me! Shoot that person. My gun is then out of ammo. I'm like, oh damn, I need to reload. I need to head back. I see one on you. I'm like, oh no, I can't. What can I do? You say, get off me, and then the next one goes, ah, and I'm like, get off me. Oh, like I'm out of get off me's, right? Right? So I then look to you to like help, and then I see that you have obviously run out too, and you go down next to me.
Also, we could have had like little melee weapons on us, but like I didn't have like one on me.
No, technically we weren't allowed to use them because we weren't
Oh,
allowed to use
dark.
melee in the
Yes,
dark. Yeah.
yeah, of course, yeah.
So
So we were eaten by
yeah,
fish people.
yeah. So the nice NPC fish zombie was just like, is it alright if I just like chow down on you? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And he's like,
Yeah, as well.
so we're like, like this. So yeah, then
So
we're
yeah, that was us.
that was that. So we got eaten. We head off to the out of character bit, to the crew bit, to be like, okay, well, everyone who's dying, you get a choice of like, well, you can roll another character if you want, or you can join the NPC crew and be zombies. And we were like, okay, cool, we'll be zombies. And we sort of zombied up, and we went out there to be like zombie Colt and Yolanda. We got a bit lost. We got a little bit freaked out just like walking around in the dark as zombies, and we're like, we have no idea where to go. We'll just wait until we see other NPCs moving about. It was pitch black, no idea. We're like, right, let's go back into the light and see if we can catch like an NPC lot going down. So we walk out into the light, and then like Max is like, hey, do you guys want to like go back in? You know? We're like, yeah, sure, we'll go back in. Like, right, cool. So the narrative that you got for us was like, right, okay, so what's happened is that you've played possum, you've heard all your friends being eaten around you, and you've woken up, and all you want to do is find friends. So like in the interim between us getting downed the first time, the town had been abandoned. They were like, well, we've been overrun, and so everybody had left the town into the woods in the dark. So Max takes us into the darkness of the woods, and just leaves us and just find help, and just leaves us in the woods, us and like one other person, right? So we're like in the middle of the woods in the pitch black, like, okay, let's try and find. And obviously, all you can hear is obviously, so the fish zombies are making like this, like that type of like noise. So you could hear that every now and again, and obviously every now and again you could hear a gunshot in the distance. But obviously you didn't want to shout out because that would draw like death to you. So we were like, okay, let's just wander around the woods and see if we can find help.
There was a lot of wandering around,
Yeah.
and it was terrifying until eventually we had that moment where we ran into a group, and we're like, oh no, wait, we're friends, and we ran into a group of our friends, and we all found each other, and then we spent a while walking about in the dark, trying not to be seen, trying not to be heard, like really trying hard, and eventually we did get back to the actual village.
Tell you what, it was effective, like the actual because like obviously by the time I think it was 3 of us, and then we met up with like 4 or 5 people, and they were like, we had to do that thing. It was like they might just shoot us as soon as they see us. We were just like, oh, we're friendly, it's okay. We joined up with them, but then obviously we were winding our way through the woods, and usually single file. It was really intense being the person at the back of the fight. I'm like, I don't want to be the person at the back of the line, because you could hear people like you could hear the monsters like making noises and things like that, and it's a big acreage at that place as well. Yeah, it was wild.
I know it was really scary, this bit, but like we got back to town, and as we got into town, we did the whole like looking around each door and everything, and then we found a whole group of people just sitting, chilling out, like, no, it's fine, and you come. And at this point, we all kind of reconvened. And this was very late at night. At this point, we're like approaching like midnight now. And we're all talking about different things, and different pieces of information is coming back.
Well, yeah, this is the point in the story where everybody gets together and just like shares all the information everyone has. So yeah, it's like, okay, so the communists have a monster that that they want to use this monster or whatever, and then it's like, right, okay, the cultists did this ritual. They've summoned Cthulhu. The only way to kind of stop this, so the communists had been like quelled at this point, right? So it was just a matter of being like, okay, what do we do with Cthulhu, right? So we have to basically the team had figured out, right, we need to basically do the ritual again to desummon Cthulhu. And we were like, right, how are we going to do this? We've got to do it with these daggers. How are we going to get the daggers? But then we were like, well, we can actually use some of the artifacts we already have that are already weapons. So we had the sword, and we had like the pistol as well. And we were like, we could probably do it with those. To do the ritual, you had to sacrifice someone, as well. And we were like, all right, okay, well, we need to sacrifice someone.
So we're basically at this point here, we'd sort of realized that there might need to be like a sacrifice. We need to get weapons and so on. But at this point, we were kind of like all in drifts and drabs and kind of a little bit scattered.
Well, we
and
split up after that because we were like, some people went, wrong. We need to go find the daggers then. So they went off to go and find these weapons from all these different people that had the daggers,
So round about this point is when a person came up to me and compelled me to go somewhere. So what they had set up is they had encounter tents essentially set up, and the goal was for every single player to get one of these like personal experiences. Somebody came up to me and they said, like, I compel you to follow me. And I followed them. As I got there, right, okay, right, out of character, we're going to go through a couple of things here. This is an encounter. First of all, are you okay being restrained? And I said, yeah, sure. I went, okay, you're gonna have to take like your coat and everything off because of how you're getting restrained. And in my head at first, I thought I'm gonna be on a chair, like interrogated, I guess. That's kind of freaky. That's probably what's gonna happen. And then when you're like, oh yeah, you need to take your coat off. And I was like, well, wait, what? Okay. Took it off. They put a straitjacket on me. Never worn a straitjacket before. It is terrifying. You cannot get out of it.
Yes,
So they put
that's the idea.
They put a straitjacket on me. And so I was tightened up and I was essentially like, I had my arms crossed over my chest and I could not move. They blindfolded me and they walked me inside this hut. So I hadn't seen inside the hut yet. They did all this outside and then walked me in. And they said, right, you're going to step over like a ledge or like a side or something. Like, okay, I stepped over it. And they were like, right, you're gonna lie down now. So they laid me down. They said, right, when you hear rain, that's when you can open your eyes because we need to take your blindfold off for you because you can't do it yourself. So they took my blindfold off and said, keep your eyes shut. And when you hear rain, you can open your eyes. That's you're back into it. I went, yeah, sure. So the lid went on. And that's when I realized I was inside a coffin wearing a straitjacket.
It's wild. It makes me squirm just hearing about it. Just like...
Sorry, I've got a little trigger warning here.
All the triggers are at the start. Don't worry.
Okay. This is the claustrophobia one, everyone. So I was there in a straitjacket and I heard rain. I heard the sound of raindrops hitting the top of wood and like bouncing off of it. And I heard the sound of a spade go into a load of dirt and then drop it on top of this wood that I realized was like right at my face. I realized how close it was. And I kept hearing this happening and I screamed and I shouted for help and I kicked and I yelled and I cried. And no matter what, everything just slowly drowned out as the soil covered the top and the was really loud to start off with started to fade until eventually I was in a deafening silence in this box. There was no way out. I was deep in the ground. And it did not matter how much I screamed or how much I shouted for help. Nothing was going to save me from this. Until I then heard this scratching. it's the noise of scratching around my head and around my feet started to come, as I could tell that what had to be like rodents or rats or something was scratching its way into this coffin. As I moved around, still in the straitjacket, unable to do anything, I couldn't even lift my knees high enough to squirm out. I was so trapped inside this box. And then it stopped. And they opened the door. I was kicking around a lot, and they kind of stopped. I think they stopped it slightly early, thinking that she might be king wants out. And I was just like giggling, like I was in hysterics. I couldn't stop laughing. And they were like, well, so the next morning, like just to skip to this morning at breakfast, they literally said, oh, we thought we'd broken you then because we hadn't had anyone laugh so much. Oh my God, we've done it. We actually just said something.
Just turned you into Harley Quinn. Just like
and that's everyone. It's my origin story.
That is my villain origin story. Yeah, I remember you came back and you were just like, out of character, you whispered to me like, you would have absolutely hated that. I've just been buried alive. Just like...
I was like, oh, see, if they take you, tell them you do not want to be buried alive. You will not get through that.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, I could. The thing is, I do have like I've got slight claustrophobia, but it's like I just have I wouldn't be able to do anything with like potholing or anything like that. I just can't. I couldn't cope with anything like that. Being closed in about me, no, nothing.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it. But yeah, so like then we're kind of like we're at the climax then. So you and I don't know, we're old and it was a long day. So a lot of other characters were off trying to get these daggers basically. And we were just like, you know what, we're just gonna sit here, and there's a few more of us as well that were just like, we're all gonna die. Anyway, we had an NPC show up who was part of the British Navy, I think. It was a naval person.
Think so, yeah.
And said, "Oh yeah, by the way, like the information has gone out. What's happened here with Russia and whatever, and yeah, basically, if they have orders to basically the subs have orders to just basically bomb the island in the morning, in the morning. So we basically like, oh yeah, well we need to sort this out now. I think it was just their way of being like, come on, just get the game going.
At this point, we're talking, it would have been about 1 a.m. at this point.
Oh, so the radio at this point had turned into like the radio music was still going, but the music had turned into like this like BioShock type, like, really weird kind of like submersive music that was a little bit off, that little bit off key kind of type of music that from this era, and it was really like it made it really atmospheric, like just matching all of our like. So this is the point where I knew that I'd lost all my marbles again, but I abandoned my sanity thing, like my role play effects. I'm just like, I can't be bothered being like, I don't want to be the person being like, I need drugs. I'm just like, no, I'm like, I can't. I don't have the energy for it, and it wouldn't make sense. Like it would just, it doesn't really add to anyone else's game for me to be doing that. So I was just like, oh, whatever, it's all lost. I'll just chain smoke and drink the rest of the night. Which is sort of what my insanity was anyway, but just not as intense.
Yeah, exactly. We kind of just like got to that point, and I'd already decided. I was like, nah, she's been through so much. She's no longer going to be that person. She's a different person than she was when she first came here. She's not afraid to die. Like she's just not. She's no longer afraid to die, but she will take everyone out with her. Like that was her point. So at this point, we're just a little recap. We're trying to get the daggers so we can go and do a sacrifice so that we can, get rid of this this monster.
Some of the more proactive people that are still proactive at this point are saying, right, okay, what we need to do is we need to, so like literally we had also like one of the researchers was like carrying like a load of artifacts and just would not let them go either, including the big Cthulhu one.
Like a baby, like cradling them, like no one is getting them. That's who I gave my artifact to, actually.
And that was like so
they were seeing tentacles everywhere.
Yeah, so them and like a few of some of the more proactive people were like, all right, okay, so we figured out that really what you want to do is basically sacrifice. So to summon Cthulhu, you had to sacrifice someone who's unwilling. To undo it, we need to do the same ritual with someone who's willing. Are there any volunteers? And we were just like that. And then like 2/3 of us were just like, okay, just let them sort out what we're doing. We're all like screwed up anyway. And then they started like coming. They were all in a huddle, and then they started like coming over and speaking to certain people, and then that person would come to the huddle. But if you walked to the huddle, they were like, "Oh no, go away. We're talking." And we're like, "All right, okay." There's something that doesn't make sense here. You know, there's definitely something that doesn't make sense. And I was like, so they were like, right, okay, well, we need to get this done now. Like, this needs to be done now. We've got all the. They managed to get all the daggers or whatever. They told a few of us that like run out of energy. They're like, oh yeah, we've got everything we need. And they went. I remember I said to one of the researchers, they were like, oh yeah. I was like, well, hang on, who's gonna be sacrificed? You know, what if it's I was like, you need to tell us because like if they're supposed to be willing or unwilling, then we need to know. And I remember they were like, oh, it doesn't work like that. Come on. And I was like, ugh. I know it was the end of the game. And I was like, okay. I was like, this is gonna get tense because obviously I had figured out of character, probably in character as well. They're going to sacrifice someone. And I walked down there. I was like, definitely in character now. I'm like, okay, they are going to grab someone because it's clear they haven't got someone to sacrifice, and I'm like, so that group of people are going to grab someone to sacrifice one of us to
Yeah,
sacrifice.
like keeping in mind, up until they're telling us it has to be a willing sacrifice, but we all have to go there. But it has to be a willing
Yeah, but
sacrifice.
because if there was a
They're
willing
trying to
sacrifice,
put that ease on us all.
yeah, because I was like, well, why haven't you made a decision on who wants to be willing, right? So anyway, we get down to where we had done the cutscene, and freaking Cthulhu is like there, right? Included some,
Bloody
yeah, and
terrifying.
like monsters are there, and we're like shooting our way through, and we get there, and we're all like tentative, and we're like 2/3 of us are waiting for the people that are supposed to know what they're doing. Just get on with it, and it's not happening. And then I like twig in character. I'm like, I look at you, and I'm like, stay away. I'm like, stay away from them. But then obviously, then we've got like fish zombies coming out as well, like at us, like slowly, like Cthulhu is like moving backwards and forwards like this, you know, like we're all like moving slightly away from him. We're like, we need to get it done. We're like, what? And there's some people who haven't clocked it, are like, what are you doing? What are you waiting for? And then they grab someone, right? And that's someone that they grab is like, oh, get off me! They shoot them like in the foot. And the person they grab shoots the people holding them in the foot, gets away, get off me. And then I hear clear as day because I'm like looking just in case a zombie comes out and shoots me. And we're like in this like clearing and there's woods all around us. We can't see the fish people coming for us either. Like they were literally coming out of the woods, so you had no idea what direction the attack was coming from. And then obviously behind us, we had our own allies like talking who they're going to sacrifice. And I literally hear them say, someone literally runs up to them and is like, "Oh, just do it to me," and they're like, no, you can't. And I hear them be like, no, we can't do you because you're willing, like this. And I'm like, ah. So I'm like, in my head, I'm like, crap, they might grab me, they might grab Yolanda. And I'm like, but what am I gonna do? And then, and like, I think like, um, L, who's NPCing, as one of these fish people comes like running at me, and I'm like, ah, and I'm just like, but I look pretty cool. I'm like, this is my cool moment because it was a long like run up to me, and I just like raised my gun and was like bang like that, and then she's like on the floor. It's like, and I just like turn around and just like like that, and at that moment they then grab these other people, and I will say. I'll let you tell your side of the story next, but this is the moment where I'm the most like out of character, freaked out a bit because I'm just like, ah, what, they might grab me, I might get eaten here, and what, ah.
I was pretty freaked out here as well. I hadn't clocked on as much as you had to them grabbing people though. I was so focused on all the fish people. I was actually a distance from them. And at this point, I was shooting anyone that came near me, whether they were a fish person or not. Like I was like, no, 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 don't trust any of you. So no matter what they were and what their goals were, I was like, do not come near me, you know? And it's at the point now it's that they need to do it now. Like if they don't do it now, like all this is for nothing. And then they chose their person.
They grabbed the poor research with all the little research with all the
And
artifacts.
she's lying on the ground, the fetal position, cuddling all of these artifacts. Like, no, no, no. And it was how most of us kind of went, okay, yeah, oh, come there.
Yeah, no, it was pretty horrific. Yeah, it was pretty horrific. They were like, like that, and we were like, oh, and then they did the thing. And honestly, for me, it was perfect because it was at the peak, like freak out, like because I'm a bit like you, because obviously I'm like, again, so I like I shot one, and then I shot like as L comes running up, I shot her twice. I only had 5 bullets in my gun, so I'm now down to I've got 2 shots with like 12 people around me that might grab me for a sacrifice, or you, and more fish people coming, and Cthulhu like just slowly walking backwards and forwards. I'm like, ah, this, and then as you say, they grab her, they sacrifice her, and then they say time out because we did it. I was like, oh my god, stressful.
And we all go and change our clothes after that. Everyone was in such a state.
Oh, it was a good game. It was a really good
that
game.
moment of like, just sacrifice anyone, just for goodness sake, just get this over with.
But that's what I mean. I was the most immersed because out of character, I kind of twigged out character earlier, but then I was completely in character and I hadn't thought to myself, oh, actually the game might end if we just do it. So I might just like sacrifice, like I might just grab someone, help them grab someone. I was literally being like, crap, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? You know, and I was the most immersed right before the game ended, which was really cool.
Yeah, no, it was terrifying. Ended there. It was supposed to end at 3 a.m. I think we were a little bit before 3 a.m.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult though to. I understand why they wanted to leave it in the middle of the night, not the Sunday morning, and why they went, okay, well, if we're not doing Sunday morning, we'll do 3 a.m. just in case. But yeah, a few of us were flagging like.
We also got the announcement at this point because we all like breakfast, and the next morning we had an announcement of breakfast is going to be a little bit later tomorrow.
Yeah.
Everyone, it's starting at this time. Everyone was like, yay!
Yeah. I mean, I obviously like LARPing every day on there, but at the same time, it was good to go to sleep, wake up, and just like chill out at breakfast, and just talk about the game with everybody. Yeah. So I mean, that was
us.
That was our horror LARP experience. It was such a good game. It was such a good game. And again, there was lots of storylines. That was literally just our story, our 2-character story out of several players that were there doing all their different bits and pieces. So I'm sure there was so many more stories. We have already interviewed Max as well about this game and how he ran it. So we do talk again a little bit more about. I think we do go over some of the encounters, and he tells us a couple of stories about the different encounters that they did for people as well. But do we want to wrap up?
I think so. That's been quite a lengthy episode.
Yeah, good lengthy episode. But I think hopefully it was worth it. If you are interested in this game and you are like able to go to Eversley to the Feast Your Eyes LARPs, Max is running this game, not this game, but running a sequel to this game. The information is on their website. The brief is actually out in the Discord for the game. So it's set during the time of the Black Death in like in Italy. I think the island's going to be off the coast of Italy, so it's going to be a very different vibe as well. So I think to be fair, I think he said from the off, like when he first like put forward the game, being like this is going to be one of a series of games that's going to be run next year. So if you're interested, go check out the dates and things like that. I imagine, and keep an eye out for when tickets drop on that. I'll wrap up with our housekeeping. If you enjoyed our spooky episode, please leave us a like. Please subscribe to the channel as well. It does help us out. If you enjoy the content, obviously, if you enjoy the content, if you think we're terrible, then you can unsubscribe. Of course, leave us a comment. down below if you kind of have had any experiences with like horror LARPs, or if you would like to go to a horror LARP or any of the Feast Your Eyes LARPs that they have down at Eversley. Tell us about your experiences, give us questions, give us the stars on all the audio platforms as well, and our next episode we'll be speaking with Max about, we're talking about Empire, because Max is an Empire player, but also we'll be talking about this game and running LARPs in general as well. So with that, we love you very much. Stay safe, and you're all fish, okay? You're all fish people.
Okay, well, with that then I guess goodbye, and see you all next time.
Goddamn
Since we
fish people!
survived.